watch the clip that I sent you last night?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good. I'm so glad, because I need you to know that I sent everybody the clip from Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Charlie starts doing the Jaws monologue, but about rats. And I need you to know that was my first exposure to that monologue. And so when the monologue came on during the screening of Jaws, I was like, it's Charlie!
That's so funny. I started to play it, and then just Trav chuckled out of like the side.
Well, and like the entire time, I'd thought that Charlie Day, who I love, was doing a bad British accent. I didn't really. That's just the accent. That's what the dude sounds like. Yeah. Like now that I know the original, I'm like, what an impeccable impression.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Unreal.
As somebody who doesn't watch Always Sunny, that clip did make me giggle. So thank you for that.
Yeah. The dead eyes of the rat. They roll back in its head.
Can't wait to get in it. But welcome back
to Splice Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror.
It's modern gore.
We're your hosts. I'm Siena.
I'm Al, I guess, today.
We're going to find out. Are you Al? That's the question. Pop quiz at the end to find out.
I'm like a little chocolate rabbit shell of Al today. So my face looks more dead than usual because the tism and the resting face. If we're hanging in there, hopefully you all are doing okay. If you're not, hopefully this helps you I hope it helps me.
Indeed. If it makes you feel better. I was terrified yesterday morning when I woke up that I was going to have to cancel today's recording because I woke up with, I shit you not, a bee sting on my upper lip.
Oh,
I don't know how I slept through that happening. I was like, I'm going to come in and everybody's going to be like, Siena got Botox for their 27th birthday.
Oh, no.
So,
oh, my God.
I spent literally all of yesterday with, like, baking soda all over my face trying to make it calm down because I was like, nobody's going to believe me that this wasn't intentional.
Have you ever been stung by a bee before? So you could have, like, not known you were allergic, just never woken up from that now.
There you know. Not the worst way to go, all things considered. Peaceful. Peaceful, bee-related. We know I love Candyman.
Yeah. I was going to say, at one point, not to get, like, whatever, I always say that. I would love to do this weird pairing one day. Let me know. There's a movie about, it's basically like arachnophobia, but it's bees. It might just be called bees. There's also one just called bats.
Are you sure it's not the Bee Movie?
No.
Truly it is a horror film.
Yeah. Never seen it. Too scary. But there's one about like, it's just infestation of bees. As a child, it freaked me out because there was a little girl had her rabbit, I think she carried around with her in a little case. And it like swarmed. Yeah, it swarmed. And I remember being like, the rabbit!
No! Did the bees attack the rabbit?
I think so.
Oh, no.
I think it made it through. I don't know. Might have died. We have to watch.
Watch and find out. One way to learn.
But we're talking about water horror.
We are talking about water horror. So
question mark.
Yeah.
Water horror? Creature horror?
Creature horror. Yeah, the two creature features. Two water creature features.
Yeah. Which feels perfect because we're like, what is it? End of July-esque. I feel like it's like last minute camping and people going to the lakes. And
it's the time when these bodies of water are at
most
their most active.
Oh boy.
Yes. Which I will say my birthday got some interesting shout-outs in Jaws, which I was not expecting. But we'll get to that later because it actually points out some historical inaccuracies that I'm going to be really obnoxious about. But
talking about Jaws.
We're talking about Jaws,
and
1975. And
Lake
Placid, 1999. Yes. So,
which I'm going to say it now. Today is in 1999, July 16th, when we're recording this, of course. July 16th, 1999, it released in theaters.
Well, I will say,
also, the anniversary, baby.
July 16th is also the anniversary of the Trinity test, which is connected to the Hiroshima bombing in Jaws, which is what they're dropping off that's what the Indianapolis Sank doing was dropping. Anyway, it's fine. I'm fine, everybody. I'm not going to make this about nuclear horror. I can control myself sometimes.
See, I already know I'm going to feel better doing this podcast. I think I'm going to get out of my wanting to die shell.
That's what
just Siena rants help me do that.
Oh my baby, gosh. I've got such a rant coming for you. It's an unusual one. It's not a film theory rant corner. We have something else this time.
I don't think I have
something worse.
Oh god. I started to do a little tiny disc, and then I was like, nope. I have a lot of notes already. Yeah. And I figured you were going to have a lot for yours, too.
Well, and I was like, there's so much theory around Jaws already. I was like, I have nothing fresh to say theory-wise.
Yeah.
I have fresh rants though. So we'll get into that. Am I going first or are you going
You're
first?
going first. I feel like it works out the last few that we're kind of going in this nice chronological.
It's been good orders. Yeah.
We would change it if needed, but like
True.
it's been working out.
Yes. I don't think we have changed it at all yet.
We
have
haven't.
we? Look at
It's
us.
just worked
so
out.
Organized. So lazy.
So lazy is really what it is. Before we jump into it too.
Oh yes, before I tidbit you up.
Yeah, so if you're local, thank you all who came out to Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
I was not there. Again, if you're watching this, I am wearing...
I was at Pirate Weekend.
I was at Pirate Weekend at Ren Fair in Colorado.
I think we can all agree this is a good reason to miss.
It was a really good reason. Yeah. So I'm wearing a pirate shirt today, actually, for this episode. So I'm wearing my Colorado Pirate Ren Fair. Very excited. Got invited to a pirate fest in Colorado.
Oh my God, of
so I will
course
be going to that. In
So you got the in with all the pirates while you were up there.
I got hooked up with the crew. But
the crew in multiple senses, huh?
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, I love it.
So excited. But we are actually going to be playing Jaws at the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico here. We're playing it July. Let me make sure I get the dates. August.
Sorry.
I forget. I wrote July too. We're in July. We're past July 9th. We're playing it August 9th through 11th. Tickets are on sale at jeancocteaucinema.com. I believe I will be there for that one. So I'm excited to see Jaws on the big screen because I've never seen it on the big screen.
Me neither.
So,
I mean, this was my first time watching, but I also have not seen it on the big screen. And I can tell this is one of those that like... That's an experience unto itself.
Have you seen those? I'm sure everyone's seen those clips or like photos going around of there's like some place that has screenings in a lake and you sit on little rafts and they play the movie and you just sit in the water watching Jaws.
I have not seen that. I did, however, send you a shark-related meme this morning that I'm not sure
I didn't see it. No.
There's apparently a shark with a tracker on it that's like swimming around and they took an aerial of the shape it had swum in and it did its own self-portrait. It drew a shark.
Up.
Yeah.
I love, there's a guy I follow on TikTok, I can't remember his name, but he tracks all these sharks and like sometimes they just like go out in the middle of nowhere and then they disappear and it's the whole theory of like megalodons being still like
eating them.
Ooh. I'm so convinced.
I feel like a megalodon would just swallow the shark and the tracker whole and it would just keep tracking though. I mean, I guess it would digest.
That's logical. But we're not speaking on logic. Get out of here with that.
Jaws and Lake Placid.
We're speaking on conspiracy theories over here.
Absolutely. Which again, I maintain should be a new segment of the show. Is we each bring in a conspiracy theory.
Oh my God, so many, so many.
I think people would enjoy it.
We should. Let us know.
Would enjoy
should we do conspiracy theory corner? Because I'm so down.
Weigh in. We've got plenty.
Yeah.
Do you have a tidbit?
I do have a tidbit.
Ooh, let's do bit and then tid.
Mine was kind of, I don't know if mine's going to be a spoiler, but Jaws always reminds me because I used to, I don't know if I should say this, maybe we can bleep it out. So if there's like a silence after this, we jump into. I used to work for My Favorite Murder, which is a true crime podcast before moving here. And so it's like every Thursday morning I'd wake up and like upload the episode and listen to it, whatever. But Jaws always makes me think of Lady of the Dunes. Do you have a thing about this?
Wait, Woman in the Dunes?
Woman in the Dunes, Lady in the Dunes. The girl who went, like, she was found missing on a beach in Maine.
This is such a me moment.
Oh, no.
I'm thinking
of a movie. Are you thinking of a movie?
Japanese New Wave film.
Okay, get out of here. That makes sense, to be fair, but no, wrong.
It's really gorgeous. It's also like 3 hours long.
Yes. No, this is a murder, Siena.
I was like, why did My Favorite Murder do an episode on
not a movie?
It's fine. I'm fine. I'm back in the real world.
Sorry,
with you.
I'm deaf.
Yeah, so tell me about this death. I know nothing about it.
If you don't know, I feel like she's kind of popularized, and again, you haven't seen this movie, so I feel like you kind of probably don't know all these like weird lore-y things. Yeah. This might be me and Siena kind of talked about how this might be my psycho, where it's like I kind of know some of these.
Absolutely going to be your psycho.
We'll see. Again, this brain doesn't hold a lot. Sometimes I was telling Siena's like, you're going to know everything. I'm like, I forget a lot of stuff.
I think
once it goes in, it kind of like shovels itself out. My brain self-cleans a lot. But Lady in the Dunes, there was a girl discovered July 1974. Where was it? Race Point Beach in Provincetown, Massachusetts. Some hiker, I think there was some girl walking her dog, like stumbled upon her. She was nude. She was found like face down on a blanket. And there's still, I don't think it's still solved to this day, but she fit the description of an extra that is seen in Jaws. And so people have kind of rumored, they said, I forget who said it in this article, but the movie and the murder overlap geographically and chronologically, allowing for the possibility that the Lady of the Dunes was in the right place at the right time, or rather the wrong place at the wrong time.
To have been an extra. Oh my
God. So there's like a clip, I'll show it to you after, but it's like, I think it's one of the dock scenes, she like turns her head and it's just like a very brief moment. And because the casting director has since passed and they didn't like get names of all the extras and stuff, they don't know if it was her or not, but it's kind of like this weird, so in the way
like
that Rosemary
Sharon Tate story.
Yeah, the Rosemary's Baby thing. So I thought, okay, good. I'm so glad you didn't have that in there. It was my little tidbit kind of.
Oh, thank you.
Or reminder if that was a fact that you put back.
So well, because like the second you said the timeline, I was like, oh, that's so funny. That's when they were shooting.
Yeah.
Because it was May to October 1974, Martha's Vineyard.
And might be her. I'll show you the clip after so you can see. But it's kind of like famous little tidbit.
No idea.
Yeah, okay, so glad I got to give you that nugget.
Yeah, and also very much not a black and white 3-hour-long Japanese New Wave film. Look at that, shocking.
Sorry to disappoint. I
was like, I have 2 copies of the book that's based on.
Of course. That makes so much sense. Nope. Murder.
Great.
Yeah, it's
I love murder.
Not fun fact.
So diving into a Jaws tidbit. Flaws tidbit, as the crew likes to call it. Did you know about this? Their nickname while they were working on it was Flaws because they hated it and Spielberg so much. The movie as a whole, Spielberg in particular. So Spielberg, I wanted to start with this tidbit and then go in because it kind of leads us into the story nicely. So Spielberg was not the person who was originally supposed to direct this film. I'm sure you know about this. There were 2 other directors who were considered first. They tried to get John Sturges because he was the guy who directed The Old Man and the Sea. So obviously they're like, boat movie, get the boat guy.
Yeah.
This does not happen. I couldn't find stories on why the boat guy did not want to do the second boat movie. Perhaps filming on a boat is difficult. We're going to talk about that.
Perhaps.
The second one, guy who actually got the job before Spielberg accepted it, hilariously named Dick Richards. He'd just done a Western called the Culpeper Cattle Company. What a great name. The Culpeper Cattle Company. And he loses the job, gets fired. Do you know why this happened? I loved this so much. He kept calling the shark a whale. He was on set and he was like, and then we're going to shoot the whale. And the 2 producers were literally like, ouch.
Yeah.
Bin.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine being like the leader? Like you are the point person really of your entire crew and you're just going to go confidently walk around.
Being like it's a whale.
Calling it. Again. Oh my God, that hurts so hard. Thank fuck they made the decision.
Yeah. So I was like,
good on them for like calling that sooner than later.
Binning him.
Oh my God, what an idiot.
Sorry, Dick Richards, if you're still alive.
I'm not sorry. But you're an idiot. If you're still alive, I don't know.
And like I heard that story and I was like, all of us have at least one story about a time we got fired or lost a job because we did something stupid, probably. Imagine next time that you lose a job for something stupid, feel better about yourself knowing that at least you didn't lose Jaws because you couldn't remember the difference between a shark and a whale. So,
bro. As also, I'm someone who has like
a whale tattoo.
Yeah, I have a shark tattoo. I have a shark tooth tattoo on my hand.
I forgot that that's a shark tooth.
I am.
That makes sense.
Had to go just, you know, I got one thing and I just didn't know what to do, so I kept just going aquatic. Ocean terrifies me. I respect it too much to go in it.
I relate to that. Yeah. Well, especially we're both
too much.
We grew up in landlocked places, which I think.
No, I was in Michigan.
Well, but that's like that's a
Lake Superior.
Yeah, but that's
have you heard about Lake
sharks in it?
Have you heard about Lake Superior?
Okay, quick.
There's so much
tangent. Tell me about Lake Superior.
It's like one of the deepest lakes, and there's so many lost ships and stuff in there. It's like super. There's like so many deaths and like spooky things surrounding. Yeah, you have to deep dive into, not literally.
Not dive,
into Lake Superior. There was just like a ship that went through it I think like a couple weeks ago too. And it just like something tore a hole in the bottom of it and they didn't know what it was because there shouldn't have been anything down there.
Oh
Ships
God,
just go
Bruce.
like miss. Yeah.
It was Bruce.
It was the crocodiles found its way to a lake. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no. So I was surrounded by But I went to Florida every summer as a kid, and I used to collect shark's teeth. So I have a whole jar of my like childhood shark's teeth, and I always wanted to find a big megalodon one.
Oh my god!
And these old white bitches would fucking find it. I'd be out there at 7 a.m. A 7-year-old kid. Imagine me, just me and my mom like hunting for shark's teeth, and these old women would find it. They'd be like, "Look, don't touch it." I'm like, "Can I have the thing?" I look every year.
It's mine
Every year.
I'm a child.
And then I found people at Pirates Weekend that showed me their teeth that they found, these big teeth.
God.
And I'm like, one day. So yeah, I went to the ocean a ton, had manatee run-ins and then big crab run-ins, but never a shark run-in.
I had jellyfish run-ins, but I would go visit my grandpa in California and the beach. We'd go to the Santa Cruz beach sometimes.
Lots of
jellyfish
over
there.
Yeah.
But that was like growing up in New Mexico. That was like my only exposure to large bodies of water was like maybe once a year. Yeah. And so because of that, as a little kid, well, there was a time that I almost drowned in the ocean as like a 2-year-old.
I love so you always throw out these things. Well, this time I did see a dead body, but that's besides the point. There was this one time I almost died. So yesterday I was sleeping, got stung by a bee. Might be allergic. I don't know. What the fuck, Siena?
I'm still here for now.
When your ghost comes back, we'll still do the pod. It's fine.
True. Just bring in a Ouija board.
Yeah, we'll just talk to you that way. My God.
Ouija board rant corner.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this? We're not going to get into this.
Okay.
Are we going to get into the story?
Up to you.
I don't even know that it's that entertaining. I almost died as a little kid in the ocean one time.
That's
one of my earliest memories. It's fine because of that.
The undertow? Don't fuck around with the ocean, man.
Well,
I think that's what these two films teach us too.
It's so true.
Not only are the bodies of water terrifying, there are things in there that will kill you just because you're in this environment.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So, all of this is a preface to saying I was so scared of deep water as a little kid that like I was even scared of like the deep end of pools. Like I would swim in them, but it'd be like, there could be a shark down there. You never know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, swimming in pools as kids. I always
Did you have that too? Yeah. That makes me feel better.
Do you have what's it called? Like megalophobia or whatever it's called? It's like fear of like deep or like big things in water too.
Yes. I definitely do. I absolutely
So you had a fun time with these parents?
Yeah. I will say this is the first time watching one of the films for the podcast that I've never jumped this bad as I did during the first time the shark appears in Jaws.
Is it when he's throwing? When does he first come? Was he throwing the chum? I forget when the first.
It might have been the second time we saw him because I remember it was like there was like a half hour left, and I jumped so badly that I scared Theodore off the bed, and she loves a good horror movie, so we know how much that's.
There's good jump points in both these films.
Both and like again, just shots of deep water scares the shit out of me. Yeah, you too. How's the water fear doing these days?
It's fine. It's
manageable.
It's manageable this one.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I actually am more afraid of lakes than I am of oceans.
I'm much more scared of oceans. Endlessness? Ugh.
Yeah. I don't like the murkiness. Gets me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, lakes also have like algae and like stuff and
other things that can kill you in there.
Yeah, all sorts of things. Ooh, I hate leeches.
Got a leech on me once. Again, we can't go too far into all these like bad trauma.
That's for between two queers.
Yeah.
So anyway, let me lead us into Jaws.
Yeah.
Jaws proper, shall we? Let's see. So directed by Steven Spielberg, obviously. I think we all know what Jaws is about. It's about a shark, which is like
it's like the shark movie.
The shark
movie.
It
will forever be the shark movie.
And I think that's
all shark movies.
As we'll talk about very briefly, like that's part of the reason that this movie is so famous is that it's super high concept, which just means it's an idea that you can explain in a sentence.
Yep.
And that's part of why it goes on to basically birth the modern blockbuster. I'm going to try and take as little time on that as possible because I think a lot of people know all of this stuff already. But anyway, so directed by Steven Spielberg. Here's our cast. We've got Roy Scheider as Chief Martin Brody. He was also in All That Jazz, which I love, but he's probably best known for his William Friedkin collaborations because he was in both Sorcerer and The French Connection.
Oh, I've never seen him, I don't think, in anything else other than this.
Oh, interesting.
perfect in this.
Yeah,
so.
it's such great casting. I really need to see The French Connection. Robert Shaw as Quint. He was also in The Sting, From Russia with Love, A Man for All Seasons, which I think he won an Oscar for. Richard Dreyfuss as Matt Hooper. Love him.
Dreyfuss is I am him in this movie.
Yeah. I was like, that's Al.
Special interest,
That's 100%
anxiety,
Al.
kind of screaming about things.
Yeah. That
bringing the wine.
100% tracks. He's also in American Graffiti, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
What about Bob?
Yeah, what about Bob? I almost put that, and then I was like, Al's gonna bring that up.
He's also he's not on a boat in that, but he is by a body of water.
There you go. Boat in Spirit.
Yeah.
Lorraine Gary is Ellen Brody. She was in Dragnet, Ironside. She's more of a TV figure. We'll talk about why she got cast. There's a reason why she's not in a lot of other stuff, which is not. I don't say that with shade on her performance. It's there's other reasons she got the role, but and Murray Hamilton is Mayor Vaughn. He was also in Anatomy of a Murderer, not of a murderer. The Hustler, The Graduate, Amityville Horror, or other Amity horror movie, which is one I'd like to talk about sometime. So quick basics to get out of the way section. I haven't done that for a film before, but this one again, one of the most talked about films of all time. I had not seen Jaws before, but I had read I know, it's insane, but I had read the Peter Biskind book, Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, which is about the 70s film industry, and so talks a lot about Jaws because it's this, like, watershed moment.
I was going to say, me and Trevor were talking about the other day, the fact that this is such a, like, Siena-coded film, you hadn't seen it, we're like, how did Siena get through film school and not? Talk about it, but that makes sense that you, like, read about it.
I read
it was
a
in
ton about it, yeah. So, which is part of why I hadn't seen it yet. It was like I felt like I'd like absorbed Jaws by osmosis,
which you probably
watching it. I was like,
but
I needed to sit down and watch it. It's an entirely different experience, but so stuff to get out of the way. Just rundown of the quick basics that everybody knows. This was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad shoot.
Notoriously.
Yes, notoriously. So we'll talk about some of the fun tidbitty stories. I'm gonna try not to get too heavy on that because
we have some younger people that I feel like listen,
might not know.
You that's awful. No one come at me for that. Cut that out. Our first edit. But I feel like sometimes even like the most known facts is either you forget about them or so it is there's fun always to still talk about like there's the good stuff.
Yeah, like I was surprised that you didn't know about the shark versus whale thing. So like there's still there's still things.
You're gonna have lots of stuff.
Love it. So terrible shoot. The shark's the main reason for that. A ton of things go wrong with the shark. The whale's the main reason. It's the whale in the room.
It's the whale in the room.
Which, because of that, is the reason why the shark's mainly off screen. It was intended to be on screen much of the time. Leads to all of these comparisons to Hitchcock. My big thing is I think it's much more like the movie Cat People that I keep bringing up from the early 40s. I think it's a lot more like that than it is like Hitchcock because that's another creature feature where you rarely see the creature. So I think there's a much more direct comparison there than to something like Psycho, but most people don't know Cat People, so which I'm going to do something about one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
So because of that, it's credited a lot for the specific style of horror that values suspense over gore. It was released on more than 450 screens at one time, which was very unusual for the time. Kind of creates the summer blockbuster as a phenomenon. Didn't really exist before Jaws. And it's actually the highest grossing film of all time until Star Wars comes along 2 years later. So a lot of people think that this was the first film to really do saturation advertising on TV. It's not the first, but it was the first to popularize it. There was another film, do I have the title here? I didn't write the title. It's a Charles Bronson movie that was released a month earlier than Jaws. Did the same thing.
Oh, wow.
But we don't know the name now. Like, it's not Jaws. So Jaws popularized it. Not the first, but popularized it. And as Peter Biskind put it, my quote from Easy Riders, Raging Bulls, Jaws, quote, diminished the importance of print reviews, making it virtually impossible for a film to build slowly, finding its audience by dint of mere quality. Moreover, Jaws whet corporate appetites for profits quickly, which is to say studios wanted every film to be Jaws. Spielberg was the Trojan horse through which the studios began to reassert their power. So it's talked about a lot in film school as this watershed moment where the kind of indie spirit that you see coming up in Hollywood in the late 60s into the first half of the 70s suddenly flips into the blockbuster craze that we see leading into the 80s. And why? Because it's high concept. It's classic high concept. Studios realize makes it extra marketable. It spawns all of the kind of high concept obsession we still live with, because that means that you can spin it off into products. And like, I put a little note here. I feel like people use the term high concept like it's this really complicated highfalutin thing. And like,
yeah, no, totally.
All it means is that you can sum it up in a sentence. Like, it's just something that's elevator pitchable.
Yep.
That's all it means.
Yep.
And so I noted here, I think it's funny that we talk about this like Jaws was doing something really unusual in being high concept, because almost every horror film is high concept. That's kind of the way the genre works.
Yeah.
So I think part of what's so interesting about this film is that it's not, it is talked about so much more as a blockbuster than as a horror. But if you look at it as a horror film that managed to cross over into the mainstream, I think a lot of these things about it make more sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
So that's the basics to get that out of the way. Now let's get into some fun stuff. So classic kind of behind every great man, there's a wife that he's almost never listening to telling him what to do story. So producer David Brown first encountered the source material because his wife was the editor of Cosmopolitan magazine at the time. He was reading her magazine. The literary section had an advanced blurb on the book before it was published, and that blurb commented that it would make a good film adaptation. So he goes and tracks down the advanced copies, reads it, and is like, we've got to make an adaptation of this. So without Cosmopolitan, no Jaws.
Yeah. Oh my God. Love it.
Cosmo.
Have you read it?
Oh, I love Cosmo.
Oh, not Cosmo, obviously.
I was like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about,
I was
Al?
gonna say, honestly, in the back of the school bus in high school, junior high, doing the quizzes with friends, that was like what we had, baby. Phones? Never heard of her. We had Cosmo.
Oh, were you asking about Jaws? That makes more sense, yes.
Oh, this is so perfect. Oh, do you love that this is just this is recorded and it's going out and people have to listen?
Yeah, this is gonna live on the internet forever. Of course, I read Cosmo. Good. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Warren, cut it out. So many edits this episode. Take it out.
Drenched in sweat already. Cool.
No, have you read the book? I read the book once. It's not very big. It's really, really tiny.
I thought you were going to say it's like, not very good.
I have to reread it again because I'm going to be honest. There was like a time in my life where I felt like I like just skimmed.
Yeah. Sometimes
through.
A book goes in one eye and out the other.
Oh,
you know?
Oh my God. Truly one in one eye out the other. Truly. That is the best way to describe that. But yeah, it's tiny. I want to reread it now because of this and like sit down with it and actually.
Interesting. And I have some info about the adaptation process.
Ooh,
too.
okay, cool.
So let's see. Let's jump ahead to that. Actually,
oh, you don't have to.
No. It's so novel came out in '74. Authors Peter Benchley, who also gets a screenwriting.
The novel
credit.
came out in '74.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit!
So it's a situation like Rosemary's Baby, where the producers bought the rights in advance of the print release.
Okay.
Which is part of why it has this amazing, huge advertising push. Is then the producers, the two main producers, end up going on talk shows starting in like November of '74 to promote the book as well as the movie, and like are promoting it all the way up until the release that summer. So, which is like the way movies are promoted now, like blockbusters, but that wasn't a thing at the time.
Wow.
So again, the way blockbusters are promoted now all stems back to Jaws. So, Benchley gets a screenwriting credit. He did, I think, the first 3 drafts of the script. Not out of some noble desire to let the writer actually be part of the creative process. It's because there was a WGA strike looming in Hollywood at the time. And because he was a novelist instead of a screenwriter, he wasn't a member of the guild. And they were like, oh, this way we can make sure that we still get a draft, even if they do strike. So, Hollywood, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Benchley's gone on to say that basically he did, quote, the storyline and the ocean stuff, basically the mechanics, but didn't know how to put together the character texture into a screenplay.
Oh, wow.
So, which I think is kind of cool that he puts that out there pretty
Right.
openly.
Yeah.
He also has a little cameo in the movie as one of the reporters. So
Oh,
there's
that's fun.
I couldn't figure out which one he was, but
Yeah.
he does appear on screen and has a couple lines. Changes from the novel. Originally, and I think this is very telling, Ellen Brody and Hooper have an affair. Which, do you remember this? Isn't that
No, I
wild?
don't.
It's wild, right? And so this was something
See,
that
one in, one eye out the other.
in one eye out the other, baby.
Is this why you posted your thing about
how they need to kiss? We all know who the real romantic tension in this movie is between. And this is something Spielberg cut because he was terrified that all of the characters were too unlikable, and he was like, if Hooper is fucking this guy's wife, we're not gonna be able to like anybody.
Yeah.
Which that's so funny to me.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, it is fair. He also
And she was so sweet.
I know.
So,
yeah. Shark in the book does not explode. The shark dies of multiple injuries. This was a Spielbergism of him being like, we need to go out with a big bang.
Yeah.
Literally.
To be fair, kind of fucks.
It does. I mean, it's an exploding shark.
I
What
know.
are you gonna do?
Two exploding
sea creatures.
Yep.
Yeah. Lots of explosions. But he cuts that. He basically is like, I'm interested in the last 120 pages of the novel, which is like the chase on the ocean. I'm not interested in all of the build up to it. Okay. But even basically jettisoning all of that, he's still like, I don't like anybody. It's not likable enough. So he hires Carl Gottlieb, who's a comedy writer buddy of his from The Odd Couple, to give him screen notes. Gottlieb then becomes the primary screenwriter and picks up the part of Meadows. So he is also in the movie.
Cool.
During the shoot, Gottlieb would basically have dinner with Spielberg and the cast, then he'd go back and write pages for them to shoot the next day.
Oh, wow.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's an insane way to make a movie. There are also a ton of other uncredited contributing writers, including John Milius, Pulitzer Prize winner Howard Sackler, Spielberg himself. Sackler, the Pulitzer dude, is allegedly responsible for the USS Indianapolis story, but that whole Quint monologue, there's like a ton of controversy over who wrote which parts of it, how much was the actor, how much was Spielberg, how much was the credited writer, how much was the uncredited
working
writer.
on a film is a collaboration, so it was everybody.
Exactly. How about it was all originated by Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like 2008.
Yeah, he came back in time and did the monologue, and then I took it.
Oh, what a wild timeline that would be. So production. Spielberg is 26 at the time that he gets this job.
Wild.
It's wild. He's just directed his first film, Sugarland Express, but that film hasn't been released yet, so he's untested in the box office. Keep that in your back pocket for today's rant corner. He comes in for a meeting. He sees a advanced copy of the novel on the producer's table, reads it, gets obsessed. Many years later, in the 30th anniversary notes, he compares it to a TV movie called Duel that he'd made and says that both are about leviathans targeting everymen. Again, high concept.
Yeah,
that's a high concept. Leviathan targets everymen.
I love that little refresher on what high concept is. Yeah.
It's so much simpler than we make it. And he actually recycles a sound from that movie where there's a truck that gets kind of trashed.
Yeah.
And uses that for the sound of the dying shark. So there's a little So he like fills it with these little references to his own earlier work. But then he, before kind of fully committing to the job, has this panic about not wanting to be the truck and shark director, which it's just so funny to me. And so he tries to back out of it, goes to the studios and is like, can I direct this Liza Minnelli period piece instead? And they're like, no, you can't. You're doing you're the truck and shark guy. And thus film history was made. So thank God, but truly weird, right? Studio makes Spielberg promise to cast known actors, but he wants to go out of his way to avoid stars because he doesn't want the baggage of this sense that this larger-than-life persona. He wants it to, again, be everyman. Yeah. As he put it, the superstar was going to be the shark. And I wrote, famous last words. Famous last words. I mean, like, it's the superstar is the absence of the shark, truly. Right? First to be cast is Lorraine Gary, so the wife of Brody. Why was Lorraine Brody cast?
Yeah.
Because she was the wife of the studio president.
Okay, see, I was wondering. I was like, who is she fucking?
Yeah. Yeah.
I almost
fucking.
said, who is she fucking? I was like, that sounds
well,
rude
and she does have
sexist,
big,
but...
like, wife of the studio president energy, which I think really fits the character.
Yeah.
Like, she's the wife of the police chief. That's who she is. But it's like, that's why you go through the whole cast and you're like, all of these amazing movies, and she's done like a couple TV shows. So that's why.
She's good though.
She was good. She gave a great performance. Susan Backlany, who's the first victim, was cast because she actually started her career as a stunt woman. So she was a really strong swimmer and was willing to work naked, which was the other requirement for that part. They tried to get Robert Duvall for Brody. He only wanted Quint. They were like, you don't have Quint energy. It's a specific energy.
Oh, yes.
Charlton Heston was interested, but Spielberg was like, if we cast Charlton Heston, nobody's going to think the shark's going to win. Everybody's going to know
Who's that? What was he in at the time?
He was Ten Commandments dude.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Which,
was he the guy that was, he was like up for Texas we talked about? No? Okay. Oh, Planet of the Apes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Travis. So glad you have our back. So Roy Scheider, actually, who gets the part, overheard Spielberg at a party talking about the scene that they wanted to shoot of the shark jumping onto a boat. And he's like, I must be in this.
Yeah.
And at first, Spielberg is like, I'm not sure you're right. You just did The French Connection. And in that movie, you're playing such a like rough, tough guy. And that's not what I want for this part. But Scheider somehow convinces him. Only 9 days before production
Was it only
starts.
9 days? I remember it was, he like wanted to do it. You got to go to a Hollywood party to, I feel like that's
where the magic happens,
I want to do this.
Yeah.
9 days before. Yeah, that checks out for
9 days before the two leads aren't cast. Yep. Which again, how?
Yeah.
How? Like, it's one thing,
26.
Yeah.
First time probably getting this amount of money, because I don't even know what his other...
we're going to talk about the money, the budget of this film.
There's a lot of,
get into all of that.
Checks out.
Yeah. So,
also 74 they shot those.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Scrappy time.
Scrappy time. Yeah. The end of the scrappy times, in fact. So, the two producers had just worked with Robert Shaw, who plays Quint on The Sting. They suggest him. He's actually not sure about the movie, but his wife and secretary are both like, you gotta take this. And I pulled a quote from him. He said the last time they were this enthusiastic was about From Russia with Love, and they were right. So once again, without the wisdom of a few savvy Hollywood wives, no Jaws.
Yeah, truly.
So, again, we bow down.
Snap for that one.
Yes, thank you. I love that that's rubbed off on you. And also, Shaw based his performance on a couple of different smaller members of the cast who were cast from the local fisherman population.
That makes sense.
Which totally makes sense. One of them, Craig Kingsbury, who plays Ben Gardner, was kind of the main sort of pinpoint that he used for creating that character. And Shaw was a troubled man.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. I was wondering if you were gonna get into this
the tax evasion problems.
Oh no, I was gonna get into the alcohol problem.
There's
which problem?
Yes, there's so many problems with Shaw.
Hey, which problem?
¿Por qué no los dos? So yeah,
Tax
huge
evasion.
alcoholic. He also was not paying his taxes, and so during like the entirety of this shoot he had to like fly to Canada every weekend so that he wasn't like living full time in the United States to avoid
Is that why he was
taxes.
also drunk on set sometimes?
We know he was drunk on set sometimes. Why?
That's so funny.
Actually, a lot of it is because he and the other actors hated each other. There was like a lot of actor tension going on, which we'll get into as well. But so for Hooper, Spielberg really wants to cast John Voight, but his then still largely unknown buddy George Lucas is like, hey, I know this dude Richard Dreyfuss. I just worked with him on American Graffiti. Dreyfuss at first turns it down, and then, do you know about this? He watches a cut of himself in the movie he's just finished, which is called The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz. What a title.
Choice.
Yeah, poor choice. And he's like, that was terrible. I'm never going to get another part again.
So
I need to take this part right now before somebody sees The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz and is like, get this kid out of here.
God.
So he takes it out of desperation. He's like, right quick before they change their minds. Parts then rewritten to fit him and ends up becoming much more of kind of a Spielberg analog as the shoot goes on, which I think also makes it interesting that Spielberg's like, I can't have this guy cheat with the guy's wife as he makes him more like himself. Other little Spielberg connections. Brody's dog, played by Spielberg's actual dog, Elmer.
Oh,
Isn't that cute?
That's really cute.
And Spielberg himself has two kind of like semi-appearances in the movie. He doesn't appear on screen, but he's apparently playing first clarinet on the soundtrack in one of the beach scenes. And he's the voice on Quint's Marine radio when Mrs. Brody tries to call the ship. And he's like, we're all doing fine, bye!
Yeah. Oh, funny.
That's Spielberg. So just a little director cameo for you. Making of.
Yeah.
Let us lead in with the famous Dreyfuss quote. We started filming without a script, without a cast, and without a shark.
I fucking love Dreyfuss so much on so many levels.
What a dude.
Yeah. I just 2 minutes to just talk about how unhinged he is.
Oh my God.
Me and Siena, I don't know if we said it on like recording, but I was like, I am
You
him.
are Dreyfuss. Yeah.
Anxiety.
I'm pretty sure I'm Brody. I think that would be me. Yeah.
Like, calm, cool, collected.
Until I'm not.
Until you're not.
Yeah. Terrified of the ocean, but somehow spending all my time on the ocean anyway.
Yeah, you're in the car.
Insisting that I'm going to live on an island and being like, well, but it's all land if you're looking at it from the sea. Yeah. That's me. So anyway, mostly shot in... Sorry, what?
Oh, no, just clocking back in. Making of... He gets a quote, they don't have anything.
Yeah, they have nothing. We have nothing. Mostly shot in Martha's Vineyard. Much of the cast was kind of filled out with locals, including a lot of the smaller speaking roles.
Maybe a murdered victim, we don't know.
Exactly. Which, oh God,
Lady of the Dune.
Gotta read into that. Was supposed to shoot from May until late June, which is super short at this point in film history.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why was that the SAG contract was also going to expire at the end of June.
Oh,
they were hoping to wrap shooting by the time that happened because they were like, there's a good chance that there's going to be a strike.
Okay. Yeah.
This did not happen.
Oh yeah, no. Oh no.
No, shoots from May until October, so takes 3 times as long as it's supposed to. Hilariously, from a modern perspective, the reason they chose Martha's Vineyard was because at the time it was not a super fancy area, actually. And so one of the producers, Brown, said that they, quote, needed a vacation area that was lower middle class enough so that an appearance of a shark would destroy the tourist business. And the other kind of more practical reason is that around Martha's Vineyard, the ocean never gets deeper than 35 feet for the first 12 miles out around shore, so they can get far enough out where you can't see the shoreline, but it's still shallow enough that the mechanical shark can work, theoretically. Can it?
Yeah,
no. Cinematographer Bill Butler actually designs a lot of his own underwater equipment for this film because this is the first major motion picture to be shot on the ocean. And so a lot of the stuff that they use for this, like the rig that they use for stabilization in the midst of tidal changes, which how do you do that?
Totally.
The submersible camera box that they use, a lot of that is stuff that is designed for this shoot because Spielberg wants to, as closely as possible, replicate the experience of a swimmer in the water, which is a lot of why it works. It's a lot of why it works. He also intentionally avoids red in the production design because he wants to make sure that when the blood comes on screen, it pops more. So you don't see it in the costumes. You don't see it anywhere else in the set design. So I'm sure you know. Do you remember about what the budget of this film was supposed to be?
Oh my God, I know that it drastically changed. I don't remember what it was originally supposed to be, though.
Originally set to be $3.5-4 million.
Okay,
somewhere in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Balloons to about $9 million, which I wrote makes me want to bite somebody.
Like a shark.
So, of course, we now need to. We're gonna get back to me biting people, but. Go put a tooth in that.
I do know what it made back, though, at least.
Oh yes, we'll get back to that. And now we get to the great white in the room, our beloved Bruce, which I'm sure you were also. Were you a Finding Nemo kid? Yeah. I did not realize that was what Bruce the shark was named after. It's so cute. I saw it and I was like, oh, I understand Bruce now. So let's talk about how we came to Bruce, because Bruce alone, in true Hollywood diva fashion, cost about $3 million. Just him.
Yeah.
So
He's an expensive boy.
he's an expensive boy. His expensive tastes. Hilariously, my jaw dropped when I read this out. The producers initially were like, why can't we just train an actual great white shark to star in the movie?
What the fuck?
What?
What the hell? Get the guy with the whale back on it. They'll be fine.
I'm like, this
Train a
is
shark,
74.
get a
There
whale.
wasn't that much coke back then yet, was there?
Well, here's the thing, though. So prior to the 70s, I don't know if it was this film that started it. There was no research done on sharks prior to the 70s.
Whoa, that's
We were very
crazy.
new in our
Yeah.
knowledge of sharks. So at this
Man.
time, no one knew
We don't know
how sharks worked.
Yeah.
Really, there wasn't really any sort of, So they probably thought they were like, oh, dolphins,
Yeah,
sure. So we can
just
train.
Well, and I mean, think of the weird things that we were doing with dolphins back then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh my god, I don't want to
that's
get into that.
a whole
What's
other
her,
podcast.
What's her name?
Yeah,
Yeah. The drug experiment.
Yeah.
I'm still horrified by that to this day.
I will tell you an off-air story about that.
Okay.
but-
But yeah. So prior to the 70s, we really. So I think also the reason why I think a part of many things of why this film did work is that was a really real fear, because it was a real unknown, like an actual unknown.
Yeah. So
They probably
love
thought
that.
they could train.
They thought they could train a shark, which it just immediately made me think about the story from The Witch, where Robert Eggers is talking about how the worst part of shooting it was working with Black Phillip, the goat, and that is a farm animal mammal. Now try imagining training a shark.
Millions of year old ancient,
giant,
unstudied,
yeah,
predator.
That's not even in the
A
same
goat's not a predator.
class of animals as you.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Idiots.
Yeah. So they're like, well, that'll just be the cheapest way to do this, right? So
Yeah. How'd that go for you? Missing hands? now?
insane. Yeah. So
They were like tiger sharks, especially.
oh my god, they'll eat anything.
Yeah.
License plates, tanks. So instead, what we get is 3 different mechanical sharks powered by air pressure, all named Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer, who I imagine must have been a terrifying man. One of the sharks has everything except the belly, and the mechanics go in the belly. One of the sharks has everything except its right side, mechanics go in the right side. One of the sharks has everything except the left side, so that the sharks can swim different directions, camera left, camera right. Took a crew of 40 people to build them, including the guy who designed the giant squid for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which I thought was cool. 14 people to operate the sharks when Bruce is in action. Sharks get trucked out to the ocean, and then the 2 side view sharks are being lowered on a platform, which capsizes, spills them. They have to send in diving teams. So we're off to a great start already. Tangent. When the sharks were built, I'm sure you've heard this story. Yeah, where Spielberg invites his buddies over. He gets George Lucas to come, Martin Scorsese, John Milius. Milius and Spielberg are joking around. They go in the shark mechanical center and start fucking around with the controls, make the shark trump down on Lucas's head. Head gets stuck. Did you hear about this?
I vaguely remember this story, and I don't know how, because those names
Yeah.
are so big.
It's hard. So
That's what I'm telling you. Again, sometimes I feel like
in one eye and out
I'm
the other,
like,
baby.
this sounds familiar. Have I heard this before? I'm like,
We may never know.
So yeah.
Yeah, so they make the shark chomp down on George Lucas. Shark gets stuck. Lucas gets stuck in the shark head.
Young
And
Lucas,
they
too.
finally pull him out, and then they all just run out of the warehouse because they're like, we just broke one of
Fucked
the
up
most
everything.
expensive
Yeah.
props in
You gotta
Hollywood
think it's
history.
I imagine, though, these guys that are so prolific now, it's just like they were just a bunch of fucking little asshole 20-year-olds at one
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Like fucking around.
Yeah. Although let me also just say, I'm only recently 27. I was just the age that Spielberg was at this point.
I know.
In no universe
Oh, no.
would I be doing
Even
this.
when I was 18
Like,
on set,
yeah.
there's no fucking way you'd catch me touching any department I wasn't supposed to be in.
No,
There's
particularly
no
if it's
way.
my set and I'm the one directing
Yeah.
it. I'm not taking my drunken buddies in to go fuck around with a shark head. Are
yeah,
you
no.
fucking kidding me?
And actually professional level.
Yes.
Like I was just
Yeah.
doing it on a small
Yes.
student level that we did our own thing.
exactly.
As a director, would
Would
have
never. Would never. Yeah. So put a tooth in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're fine. Everything's fine.
White men.
White
In
men,
Hollywood.
white sharks, man. the
Don't
great
bring
whites.
don't bring the sharks in on
whites.
this. They're good babies.
They are. Well, as Spielberg feared, I end up kind of rooting for the shark. But you too? Do you root for the shark?
I mean, yeah, because I like sharks.
Yeah, I want Bruce to win.
Yeah. I'm also just get out of his water. I always say, anyone you're
that's
in his territory.
As Betty White says, that's his lake now.
I know. Yeah, we'll get more into that topic.
Indeed,
in Lake Placid, it's a little bit more of a theme.
It's very
where
centered.
Here, it wasn't, because it was just like the 70s monster. Again, no one knew anything about sharks, so there wasn't a human going into their world aspect of this film. So.
Indeed. So, get out there, get the sharks up from the bottom of the ocean, and nothing works. Which is partially because there's like a rumor that they weren't tested in water beforehand. They were tested in water, it's just that they were tested in Hollywood tanks, which are not saline water, which is different. And so they get out there and stuff starts getting corroded because it's salt water. Yep. Yeah. Shocking. And then also Bruce's skin is made of this non-absorbent foam that keeps instantly absorbing water, and then Bruce swells up with water weight.
That was like Jurassic Park 2. We got like the T-Rex animatronic got so much water on the rain scenes that it started to like sag because of the weight and stuff. So
yeah, Bruce, it's like
by the time we got to 1999 with Lake Placid, they did a better job.
There you go. I'm just picturing poor Bruce like PMSing and like putting on water weight. Like, yeah.
It's like, guys, I'm feeling a little bloated.
And he keeps getting like stuck in seaweed, and I'm like, poor Bruce.
Yeah, justice for Bruce.
Justice for Bruce. They also had to build 2 different copies of the Orca boat, one with no engine, which is just there to sink on command, which ends up actually being more water safe than the one that they've designed that has an engine for several reasons. Partially because they put so many crew on the one that has an engine.
Did we not learn anything? This came after.
Did Funny Games not learn anything from this? No, they didn't, because
I was like,
there was a boat sinking on this. Do you know about this story?
The boat sinking on this?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Oh, yes. They, almost sunk an orca boat. Part of the problem was they had so much, like, crew and camera equipment on the top that the boat became too top-heavy. They had to, eventually, like, the solution they found was renting lead from a local dentist's office, apparently, at, like, an exorbitantly high rate to put in the bottom of the boat. To weigh it down.
Add more weight on this side
to weigh out the top heavy part. Anyway, but so
did we not learn anything from the Titanic?
Apparently not. So
it's not lead from dentists. Wild.
So one of the orca boats starts sinking with the crew on board, and one of the sound guys just like holds his equipment above his head and yells, "Fuck the actors, save the sound department!"
Oh my God,
which
truly,
I put in there for you, Warren.
Yeah. They can swim. The audio can't.
So, in conclusion, fuck the actors, save the sound department. And so much stuff goes wrong that could have gone much worse wrong. Gottlieb, the screenwriter / actor, almost gets his head taken off by a propeller when he falls in the water.
See, propellers scare the shit out of me. I'm not afraid of sharks. I'm afraid of being behind a boat with propellers. Which all
getting
boats
like
have.
my hair caught in it.
Yeah. Ugh. Or just the pull of it. Yeah. Gets me.
Horrifying.
Truly.
Dreyfuss almost gets stuck in the shark cage. Everybody's seasick. The lead actors are feuding. Ironically, partially because Duddy Kravitz comes out and Dreyfuss starts getting rave reviews. Everybody's like, this is a genius performance.
Oh my God.
And then Shaw gets super jealous, starts teasing Dreyfuss, and starts trying to goad him into climbing the mast. He's like, I'll pay you $1,000 to climb that mast. And the amount of money keeps going up, and they keep like feuding over it until Spielberg...
Dreyfuss seems like a kind of an asshole off screen, but like in a way that I really
100%.
like. And he seems like he would, especially at that time, be
like he and Quint especially would be
just razzing each other.
Yeah. And so Quint keeps trying to offer him like ever increasing amounts of money to climb the mast, and finally Spielberg is like, guys, I'm the one fucking this up. You can't be fucking this up too.
Yeah.
So original plan was for the first shark reveal to happen with this nighttime shot at the dock where we see boats rising up as the shark swims underneath them, which would have been really cool, but was just not filmable with the shark issues going on.
Yeah. They wanted the shark to go like above water, like a whale. I was like, that's not how sharks swim.
That's not how sharks swim. They wanted the boats to rise up as the shark
as he goes
swims
under
it. Yeah, which
That's
like
kinda cool.
it's a cool idea. So
Yeah.
I put it in there because like I feel like I can picture what it would have looked like.
Yeah.
Sad we didn't get it, but you know they made the best of what they had.
Yeah.
So Spielberg himself first to admit that one of the reasons that so much went wrong on this was because of his combination of perfectionism and inexperience. And I pulled a quote from him. He said, "I was pretty naive about Mother Nature, and the hubris of a filmmaker who thinks he can conquer the elements was foolhardy. But I was too young to know that I was being foolhardy when I demanded that we shoot the film in the Atlantic Ocean and not in a North Hollywood tank." Which is all well and good, but I think all filmmakers kind of need to start out with a combination of perfectionism and inexperience. I think that's like part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
But we're gonna hold it. We're gonna hold it. Come back to that for film. What I'm going to call femme filmmaker rant corner,
gotcha.
which we're going to get back to in a second. But so according to Gottlieb, basically the only reason everybody keeps shooting is because at that point it's kind of like a sunk cost fallacy. They're like, what else are we gonna
We just have to push forward.
Yeah. And so he had to kind of cut his own part down as the shoot goes on so that he can like stay back and like write the script that they don't have for the movie with no cast and no shark. But he says that he would see the crew coming back, quote, ravaged and sunburnt, wind-blown and covered with salt water.
Oh, God.
And he's like, not good. Good. So the actual shark attack, do you know about this? The underwater, when Hooper's in the cage.
Yes.
Yes. Shot in Australia. They hired an actor. I think he did not officially qualify as a little person, but he was an unusually short actor, which they chose him because they wanted to make the shark look bigger by comparison. So they have this stunt performer go down in the cage. The shark attack is so brutal that the cage is actually destroyed. The stunt performer does actually have to swim up to safety, and Spielberg rewrites the story to fit that footage, which I think is...
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, it's so interesting to watch it, knowing that.
And that to me is a great example of like the beauty of filmmaking, where like you can do all the planning you want, and sometimes the film gods will just throw a shark attack at you and you have to adjust the whole story.
Yeah,
and like you get this like gift from the shark gods.
Yeah.
That to me is like a great example of, you know, working with what you've got.
Yep. Yeah.
And so originally Dreyfuss was supposed to die in the cage. His character's not supposed to survive. The fact that he does is just because they got this footage shot, which I think is so...
He's supposed to die in it.
Yeah.
That would have been so lame.
It would have been a very different ending, wouldn't it? Because to me, I'm just going to say it, it's such a love story.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's a buddy movie, but like it's so... I don't think you would feel that sense of relief at the end if you only had Brody.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, that whole ending, I also like, too, that, yes, we get some, like, deaths, but, like, in the core cast, it's not until the very end where you're almost like, are any of them, you're like, they're all going to make it out. They're all going to be fine.
And then,
yeah.
And, of course, Quint is the one you think is the most likely to survive, too.
Totally.
Which I love.
I like the spin in the head, and then you're like, wait, where's Dreyfuss's character? Like, where is he? He's hiding under, and then he comes up. So, yeah, it's a fun reveal after.
Very clever. But it's like, again, they really didn't have... All the things that were most successful about this film were things they did not have going into it.
Yeah.
So...
Crazy.
It's so crazy. Spielberg... because this shoot is going so badly, is convinced that everybody has banded together behind the scenes to throw him into the water the last day of shooting when they're going to shoot the shark exploding. Yeah, he's so paranoid, he doesn't show up for the last day of his own set. And this has now become such a thing for him that this is his tradition, is he doesn't show up for the last shoot, which I hate. I'm just going to put it out there. Be there for your last shoot.
The last martini shot.
The martini shot.
Yeah,
you have to be there for the martini shot. What are you doing?
It's wild.
Yeah. So
I'm too sentimental for that shit.
I agree.
Too sentimental.
You've got to be there to cry with everybody. What is this?
You got to all hug each other.
Yes. Also, as is so often the case with these giant blockbusters, much of the tone, once again coming back to the women behind the scenes, was determined by a really highly skilled female editor, Verna Fields, who
Sounds familiar.
she's amazing.
Okay.
She's edited a ton of stuff.
Okay.
Won the Oscar for this film, I believe. I have that info down further,
Yeah.
but as Zanuck put it, one of the producers, quote, she actually came in and reconstructed some scenes that Steven had constructed for comedy and made them terrifying, and some scenes he shot to be terrifying and made them comedy scenes.
I was just talking about the power of editing yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite.
It's everything.
It is everything.
It's everything. And like, it's a very similar story to Star Wars too, where like we know that the George Lucas version of Star Wars is allegedly like unwatchable. It's because his then wife edited the film, did a brilliant job, and made a story come to life that we love Star Wars.
Isn't Mad Max is also like I think it was his wife or something like that. She's never edited before, and he wanted kind of that vision going in. And again, it's like so cool. And fun because of it. Yeah.
So again, for a film that is such a like dude bro-y film in some ways,
behind the scenes,
at so many points this film would not have happened without women's creative voices. So just needed to shout that out a little bit. Of course, also gotta shout out the John Williams score.
Oh my god,
this was
those
their
two notes. Most iconic things ever.
This was their second collaboration. They'd also worked together on Spielberg's first film. Allegedly,
So wild to think like from the beginning.
And they were both kind of like just starting out at this point. They were early in their careers.
You just never know who you're working with.
You never know, man. You never know when you're making Jaws.
Yeah.
When you're making Flaws. So the story goes that when Williams first played the score, Spielberg laughed and was like, "So tell me what your real idea is, dude." And then thank God he saw the light. A lot of folks have pointed out that it kind of pulls references from pirate music. Thought you'd like that. From The Shark's Heartbeat, from Bernard Herrmann's scores, who did Psycho, obviously. Williams himself described it as, quote, grinding away at you just as a shark would do, instinctual, relentless, unstoppable. It's also actually played by a tuba, but it's in a register that would usually be taken by a French horn, which I think adds a little bit to the sense of tension behind the sound, because it's pitched higher than a tuba would usually be playing. Tidbit that I bet you know, Chrissy's prop arm at the beginning when it's severed looked too fake, so they just buried a female crew member in sand and had her stick her arm out. So it's an actual arm.
Buried her full body, head and all.
Just everything. Yep. Head to
the
toe,
treatment
baby.
of women in Hollywood. It's never
Again,
been good. No.
all of these women behind the scenes, their arms literally
She was behind the scenes. It's fine.
her arms literally lifting up the film. Yep.
I love it.
Oh my god. Also, two equally disgusting for different reasons. Little production tidbits. I'll give you the dark disgusting one first, and then the light disgusting one second.
Perfect.
So dark disgusting, to get the sounds for Susan Backlany drowning, our first drowning victim.
Lady of the Dunes. That's actually how she died.
That's why we don't know what happened. That's why the women in the dunes. So so Susan Backlany, they position her upside down in front of a microphone and then pour water into her throat.
They waterboarded her?
What the fuck? They waterboarded her to get the sound of her drowning. I told you it was dark, Al.
Oh my god.
Didn't think it was going there, did you?
Yeah. Actual torture? No.
Actual torture, yeah. So nice little fun light bit. We also have an actual dead shark. When you know the one that's hung on the that's a real shark.
You can tell.
And not only that.
No.
So as you think about this, you're like, where does one buy a dead shark from?
They just pillaged it themselves.
No, they got it from Florida. They ordered a dead shark from Florida. Took a while to show up. By the time it gets there, the shark is like been dead for a couple weeks, is like
smelly.
Putrefied.
Yeah.
And because of the way it's hung, its organs
kept falling out.
Yes.
Yeah. Did they scoop them out like a pumpkin?
The organs like keep coming loose and backing up in the shark's mouth.
Oh.
And so like everybody who's close to it is just like trying not to vomit.
Yeah. I gotta watch that knowing that.
Yeah.
And, I knew it was a real shark.
Real
dead shark.
Real dead, decomposing, weeks dead shark.
Yikes.
Yeah. Also just like fun little cinematography tid. There's that famous, it's called the Jaws shot.
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
you do the it's what is it? Track forward, zoom out, and it's
The
just
Zolly or whatever.
yeah, and it's just the reverse.
I looked at Trav to make sure
Look
I
at
got
that.
that one. I was like, film school, hello? Is anybody in there?
A+. It's just the reverse of the vertigo shot, which is the zoom in, track back.
Yeah.
So it's
I also think just the swiping and punching in and cutting, it makes my brain so happy.
So much of this film depends on the editing.
Yeah.
That's everything.
Even
it's everything.
The ferry shot over from one end and how they go from like this like kind of wide shot to a mid shot to a close up and then they get off. And it's just like,
so good. Oh my gosh, I have so many things to talk about. Let's see.
It's
so
a beefy, it's a meaty one.
Beefy. It's sharky. After test screenings, they made 2 changes. One was to give more lead time before the "we're gonna need a bigger boat" line, which.
Wait, can I talk about the "we're gonna need a bigger boat"?
Talk about it.
Notoriously one of the most misquoted things. I talked about it yesterday, and then we looked it up and found weirdly on social media showed us a clip of them talking about it. So we always say we're gonna need a bigger boat. Yeah. He never actually says that. He says you're gonna need
a bigger boat.
Yeah, and we always misquote it in the time. And I was just like, wait. I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyways, just shouting out, it's you're going to need a bigger boat.
Also, apparently, an improv.
It is an improv, yes.
Allegedly. Yeah. Again, there's a lot
of
controversy about the script.
I forget who it was that we were watching the interview, but they did say, it's
cool.
improv line. So,
glad to hear that that's backed up in other places. But so when they showed that to audiences, because it comes right after the shark jumps out, audiences were too busy screaming and it covered it up. So they had to, like the same way you leave time for a laugh line, they had to like leave time for the scream. Oh so they had to extend that reaction really cool. and also turn up the volume on "you're going to need a bigger boat" because they knew really people are going to be screaming. Thought you'd enjoy that. There's also, Spielberg decided he wanted one more scare. Okay. And so he reshot the discovery of Gardner's body with his own money. When you see that head floating out, reshoots it with his own money in a California swimming pool with milk in the water to make it murky, which I think proves that as much as you can say, like, I was a young filmmaker, I didn't know what I was doing, I was just being a perfectionist, and I just knew that it would look so different if I shot it anywhere.
Siena's flipping hair if you're not watching this. Siena's drastically flipping hair in sarcasm. Yeah, tell us how you really feel.
And then the second it's in your own money, you're like, you know what, a swimming pool is good enough. I know. Which, like, it is. My point is not that shot looks any different. My point is that it can be done. It's very easy to be idealistic on somebody else's money.
Oh, yeah.
And that, I think, brings us to Femme Filmmaker Rant Corner. Part of the reason that I've resisted watching this film for so long, and I loved watching this film. I thought it was a brilliant film, but as somebody who had not seen Jaws but had read so much about Jaws and who knew, like, the shark cost $3 million extra dollars, the budget ballooned to 3 times the budget, the shoot took 3 times as long as it was supposed to take, I just cannot help but every time I hear stories about this film think, how many amazing filmmakers' careers have we lost because they were not given this grace?
Oh, I mean, I think that's the industry, though.
It's the industry.
Unfortunately, we're going to, like, $15,000 bong boy, whatever,
exactly.
on Cabin in the Woods. You know, like,
on his first feature.
That are given these opportunities.
And the point is not that you shouldn't give people the chance to fuck up, because obviously, look, this is a world-changing, art form-changing movie that we got out of it on the other end. And there was no reason to believe that from the way that this shoot was going. And in what universe today, like, there is no world in which I could get hired onto a movie with somebody else's money and blow the budget up
on
like
something
this,
that didn't even end up working and making it.
On something that didn't end up working and making it into the movie, and not get fired and replaced by somebody else. And
but you call it a whale once.
Exactly. You call it a whale once and you're out of there, buddy. But, like,
no, isn't it wild to think about sometimes?
It's wild. Yeah. And it's like, I recognize that it's not Spielberg's fault, and it's not that there's anything wrong with the fact that he was given this opportunity. Right. It's that everybody deserves this.
Yep.
And again, think what we would have missed out on had he not gotten all of these second chances that everything he's doing tells you he doesn't deserve.
It is a wild, like, this is a perfect example of, like, how did that even
Yes.
Yeah, how did this even keep going with all the fails and like how extended the shoot days were and just everything that happened, and everyone hated it, and I feel like he didn't even like believe in it at a time either, and it's just like
he was
so
like
wild.
falling asleep with a stalk of celery under his pillow to comfort himself with the
like,
smell. Literally, yes.
Comfort himself with the smell of celery.
Weird dude. It's fine, and also like that seems uncomfortable, but I digress.
Just sniffing celery, cool.
Yeah. Weird. Celery sniffer.
Celery. In the 70s, it was
quote unquote celery.
But I don't know if it's like the time too where like there were these certain, I don't know, sometimes like I don't believe in like these cosmic things, but like how weird that like all these people
things,
working on this got this opportunity when others don't, and it's just like, but what if this wouldn't have?
Yeah.
And it feels so like, I don't know.
It's
Wild Westy.
It is. And like that's a lot of what Easy Riders Raging Bulls is about, is like this period of Hollywood where for a few white men like him, like Martin Scorsese, like Brian De Palma, like George Lucas, who were all hanging out together, playing around with sharks' heads.
Isn't it too, I forget who it was. I feel like it's Spielberg. It might be another person, but on the tram tours at Universal, which I used to ride all the time.
Oh, cool.
Keep in mind, I also used to like be drunk before I would go on them. That was my thing. And then bring a tall boy as my drink.
That seems like the point of a Universal tour.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
That seems like the way to do it.
It's the best ride.
Yeah.
But I want to say it was like someone like Spielberg, or it was Spielberg, when we go past the offices, they would talk about how like Spielberg got his job because he just like lied his way into the back lot.
Yeah,
and
he
just,
did.
Like showed up in the mailroom. He's like, I work here now. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. And like,
sure.
That's both like a charming story, and also it's like,
can you imagine?
Think of all of the people who are probably, I'm just going to say it, Spielberg's an amazingly talented filmmaker. There are so many people who are probably more talented than we can ever imagine, who we'll never see the work of because they made like 1/8 of these mistakes, and they were a femme, a person of color, a queer person who is getting their quote unquote one shot. And that's all we get. And
Hollywood,
so
baby.
All of that is not to say that there is anything wrong with the way this happened. It's to say, I want this kind of opportunity for everybody.
Yeah, it's also hard, I think, like, to femme presenting people going to film school. Like, how many white dudes in the film program told you, like, I got laughed at. I literally had constantly dudes come up to me and they're like, what's your major? I'm like, oh, directing film. And they're like, good luck.
Yeah, literally.
And it's like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, and it's like,
so it's like, we come from, I think that's like, we come from that point of view where it's like we've been told no so many times for so many different reasons, and so it is like so frustrating sometimes to see those stories. You're like, I love him, but
why did you get all of these yeses in a row when I know so many incredibly talented people who never get the first one?
I hate to feel like it's just Hollywood.
It does feel like it is.
There are changes happening, especially with horror. I feel like we've seen it a lot more,
which is part of why I love the genre. Yeah. But like,
I feel like we're getting actual refreshing stories, specifically from horror. And I feel like horror is actually at a point now where it feels like it's setting a really good example for the rest of Hollywood. I don't know if that's just like the bubble I'm allowing myself to live in, but it really feels like horror is creating a change in Hollywood that feels so different.
And I think to tie it back into the films we're talking about, I think part of the reason why is that horror films, you can make horror comparatively cheaply and can turn such a profit on it that
they're profit.
I figured we're running out of time, but I'll close by talking a little bit about how much it made, just because it's like
wild.
We have to. Where'd it go?
I can tell you how much it made.
Oh, there we go. 476.5 million total.
Wild.
It's insane, which is obviously significantly over $1 billion adjusted for inflation, and first film ever to pass the 100 million marker in U.S. theatrical rentals. Number 1 in the country for 14 consecutive weeks.
Wow, 14 weeks.
Which is like, that's like 3.5 months for one movie.
We're in such a weird time now post-COVID with like theaters and stuff that it just sounds unfair. Like
nothing can last for that long. Like even films like what Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think were in theaters.
Oh,
for
it was like I feel like it was like 3 weeks. Everyone was over it.
Yeah,
We're like,
agreed.
we're good. They can come back out on streaming now.
And that was the biggest blockbusters that we've had in years.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
fascinating, which I also think is part of why we may see things shifting a little bit, is like this model that was inaugurated with Jaws is no longer really working in the same way.
But Longlegs just had an incredible weekend.
I think it was Neon's biggest opening weekend ever, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Which I am dodging those spoilers left and right. I can't wait to see that.
I really want to go see it with you.
I know. We still haven't seen Maxine too. Sorry, guys.
We're bad.
We were going to.
We tried to. Things happened.
Al was not feeling well that day.
Siena was not. Nobody was feeling well that day. That was a poor day.
Yeah. So it's cool to see. I feel like we're in like this new rise of horror, which feels really cool.
Yeah. So all of that just to say, like, I don't mean that to be ending on a bummer note. I mean it to be ending on an empowering note of like, let's see more of this as we move forward. Yeah.
Raise those voices.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh,
what were you going to say?
No.
No, there's so much more to talk about. The one other thing that I do want to shout out that I just think is just like one last fun little tidbit.
Yeah.
As we're talking about the release of the film, got compared a ton to The Exorcist at the time that it was released.
What?
Weird, right? Like now we look at them and it's like those are such different films.
In what way did they get compared?
One of the people who compared them was Roger Ebert. He said, a sensationally effective action picture, a scary thriller that works all the better because it's populated with characters that have been developed into human beings. It's a film that's as frightening as The Exorcist, and yet it's a nicer kind of fright, somehow more fun, and because we're being scared by an outdoor adventure saga instead of a brimstone and vomit devil.
What a wild comparison, though.
Wild, right?
It was just that, like, the most popular.
Just two scary movies that were popular at the time, but so different.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But I'll say the tidbit is that the one thing that The Exorcist and Jaws do have in common is that both films have now been analyzed by the medical and psychiatric community for how they cause stress to viewers. Jaws, in particular, was kind of especially studied because there's a documented case of something called cinematic neurosis, where a girl saw Jaws, experienced a mental health crisis to such a degree that by the next day after seeing the movie, she was having a crisis where she was having convulsions and screaming, "Sharks, sharks!" Okay. Which, like,
yikes. Maybe you shouldn't go see horror movies.
Maybe don't go see horror movies then. But like it does interest me that these two movies have something that like touched on people's psyches in such a way that like there are actual studies built around like putting people in, I guess, probably MRIs and studying their reactions as they watch Jaws.
I wonder if Psycho would have been released then because like they got the letters about not being able to shower if like that would have been studied too.
Well, and obviously people stopped going to beaches after this movie.
Oh yeah,
that was like the Jaws effect. Which you all can go look up because I'm out of time now. But
it felt like I feel like we have so much more time to talk. It feels like we really breezed through that.
Yeah, that was. I've still got pages of notes, but I feel like it's such a beefy movie. That we got through all the production stuff at least. Let's see.
Any good little last bits.
I'm looking through my watch.
Yeah, I like weirdly had a decent amount of for mine, but
just because I referenced it earlier, the historical inaccuracy that I got mad about. Well, and like we always go through like the IMDb page. I couldn't find anybody talking about this.
Yeah,
they say that in Quint's monologue, he says that the USS Indianapolis sunk on June 29th, 1945, which June 29th is my birthday, which is the reason I was paying attention.
Yeah,
it's also the day that the first shark attack happened. They say that was on June 29th, 1974.
Okay.
So it was like sticking in my head because of that. And he's like, we just dropped off the bomb and we were coming back and the ship sunk on June 29th. And I was like, Trinity wasn't even tested until July 16th, today. So they're saying that they dropped off a bomb that had not even been tested at that point.
Well,
which
that was one of his drunk rants.
He did actually shoot that scene drunk and had to go back and reshoot it the next day, to be fair. But
and they were like, it's fine, leave it in. He looked really good.
It was really good. Yeah. So They were just like, nobody's gonna notice, and nobody did besides me,
Siena.
because I'm both a nuclear history nerd and bored on June 29th.
Add it to the IMDb trivia.
There you go.
I don't know if you could do that, but like do that.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Well, anybody else probably not.
That's
but
one of his drunk moments.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. There you go.
Did you liked it?
Loved it.
Okay.
Had such a good time. I hadn't been sure going in if I was gonna agree that it was straight up horror, and from that opening scene, one of my watch notes was like, just the way that this is treating sexuality alone, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad
loved
you
it.
finally got
Loved
to see
it.
it and loved it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
What would you rate it?
Oh, I give it a 5. I love this movie.
Makes sense.
I actually watched this one first.
Oh, I love
because
that.
I'm like, I know this.
Yeah.
I know this movie inside and out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well
5
deserved a little treat.
across the board.
Cool.
10 10s across the board.
Yeah. 4.5, I'd say probably. Yeah.
So 5.
Loved it.
I'll rate it 5.
Yeah.
I'll force Siena.
Yeah.
Or knock it down for white men. Knock it down half a point for white men.
That's literally the only reason that it's not a 5.
right.
Yeah, it's just too much men. Too much male bullshit.
On that note.
On that note, we'll be right back.
I know how much you love stories of horror and gore. Meet our sponsor, Beasley Books, the independent bookstore owned by author George R.R. Martin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beasley specializes in autographed titles, rare editions, and speculative fiction, which includes sci-fi, fantasy, and of course, horror. You can find many authors whose adaptations we've covered at Beasley, including Stephen King, Clive Barker, and more, alongside the likes of Nick Cutter, Shirley Jackson, and Anne Rice. Visit the Santa Fe storefront Wednesday through Sunday at 418 Montezuma, or shop online anytime. I don't know why I'm Irish now, but you can find them at BeasleyBooks.com or on Instagram at BeasleyBooks418. And make sure you use code SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. Bye.
And we're back.
I forgot it was a forward
I
backwards.
forgot too. We both did it the same way though, which is the
I
important
didn't look
thing.
at you. So here we are.
We're here.
We're Lake Placid. We're a couple decades past Jaws. I have a fun little kind of kickoff that kind of leads us in.
Lead us in, baby. Lead us into that lake.
In Spain, so covering Lake Placid, 1909. In Spain, the movie was called. This white lady over here is gonna say Mandibulas.
Mandibulas?
Yes, which is Spanish for Jaws.
Yeah.
As a tribute to Steven Spielberg, and they also, I think they had, because his movie was called the Tiburon.
Oh yeah,
One?
tiburon.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No.
I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of myself. Another white speaking like this on a mic.
Again, it is the episode of The Great Whites. What are we doing here?
So it's kind of like a fun little play.
I love that. That's so
that
cute.
they gave a tribute in Spain. So that's where we're kicking off.
I love. Well, I mean, like the opening shot is so obviously like the opening shot of Jaws. Like it's a direct.
Oh, this
quote,
movie would not. Jaws walked.
Yeah.
Kind of swam.
Jaws
sunk, so the crocodile
Jaws
could
exploded,
swim.
so the crocodile could explode.
Yeah. That's the baby one. So I thought it was really cool. Again, I saw something pop up yesterday from on Instagram, and the fact that this movie was released on the day we're recording in 1999. So very
so
fun.
perfect.
I know. I was like,
Yeah.
the way we don't.
I know. We manifested
Y'all
it,
might
baby.
think that we choose things
so carefully.
No. We decided next week's episode
Literally
right
5 minutes before we started
record.
recording. Yeah.
So we just luck out.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lake Placid. You'd never seen this
I've
before.
never seen this before. Looked up nothing about it going in.
I did send you the trailer like a couple.
That's
we did
true.
decide this
I
one
did,
a little bit earlier.
I did watch the trailer.
And you were like, this looks fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Which boy, oh boy.
Al, I have never had a harder time trying to decide what I'm going to rate a movie in my life.
Oh, it's wild.
What was this?
It's a 5
what
for
is
me,
this?
based off of Oliver Platt. Or what's his name?
Oliver Platt? Yeah.
His dialogue. 10.
10
10 out of 5.
10 out of 5.
Just for him.
it's like a 10 and also a negative 10 out of 5, and also like I'm all over the map on this. I have no idea what I felt.
I think that's what this film is for people, though.
Yeah.
I think that's, again,
sheer chaos. Sheer cinematic chaos.
It's the most bonkers plot. It doesn't really make sense, but it does make sense, but it doesn't. So many things happen, and then nothing at all.
And then nothing at all.
And then it seems like it's going to be really sweet, but then you have Sears' character and his dialogue. But this is a very much like beloved cult film.
It's and for obvious reasons.
That
ending with
it's so good.
I Want to Love You, Cohen. Oh, we forgot the fan again. God damn
whatever.
it.
You
It's
can't
fine.
hear it.
It's
Thank you,
fine.
Jeff.
Yeah.
I figured you'd have this response
speechless.
to it. I love this movie. So I rented this. I think my parents rented this with me. We watched it like from Blockbuster. Roughly shortly after it came out, I would say. So yeah, I have a long history.
Yeah.
Never saw it in theaters. I don't think, at least. I didn't go to a lot of movies as a kid.
I didn't either.
My parents didn't like to go to movies, so therefore I was not.
You weren't a
going to
movie
movies,
theater kid.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wanted to be.
Yeah.
They just, if they didn't like it, I didn't get it either. So, but yeah, I love this movie just for the camp of it. It feels so 1999.
And truly so. This might be the campiest movie we've watched.
Yeah. It almost feels like, in the best way possible, it almost feels like a made-for-TV movie.
It really does. Yeah.
And I think that's why I like it, because it's like a Sunday afternoon movie for me.
A really well done made-for-TV.
Yeah.
Like
there's some effort behind it.
Yes. Yeah. Like, it's not a slapdash made-for-TV movie. It's elaborate.
It gives me the same energy, which I can't find anywhere. Judd Nelson, Cabin by the Lake.
Oh, I haven't
cannot
seen
watch it anywhere, but that used to be, it would be like if I wasn't watching Lake Placid as a kid, I was watching Cabin by the Lake, which is also like a horror murder movie. So
interesting.
love these lake movies, man.
Love a good
Again,
lake movie.
Grown up Michigan.
Yeah,
love a spooky
perfect sense.
lake. So
I mean, again, every lake has to have like at least 5 human bodies in it, right? Like there's
you're someone with dead bodies at all times.
Anywhere.
Is that gross to think about?
I think about it all the time. I know. All the time.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, description? ? When a mysterious creature violently kills a man in Main Lake, in a Main Lake, Jack Wells, Bill Pullman, the local game warden, which I love, looks into a bizarre case along with Sheriff Hank Kyo, Brendan Gleeson, and a visiting paleontologist, Kelly Scott, played by Bridget Fonda.
What a wild!
The fact that you have a local game warden, a sheriff, a paleontologist, and then a crocodile diver,
billionaire scholar. Because we hear that he's a college professor at one point, so he's teaching classes at a university in his free time.
We get all these guys together, and it makes Lake Placid. I think that's what I love
Betty
about
White.
it too.
Yeah,
and then Betty White.
Yeah, there are so many points
in her most iconic role ever, in my opinion.
Oh my god, which is saying a lot.
Oh yeah.
There's so many points in my notes where I was like trying to figure out what kind of a world is this?
Oh,
like where
we'll get into what kind of a world this
where
is.
Are we living? I was like, it feels like a 40s screwball premise at first, and then as it went on, I was like, no, it feels like a comic book. Like
we'll get into why it feels weird.
Oh, great.
There is a reason. I don't know if you'll be happy with the answer, but we kind of have a reason.
I'm not unhappy with the experience. Like I had a time. I had a blast.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
Going from
what
Jaws and then watching this, you can't watch them with the same mindset. Don't do it. You'll ruin the experience.
I tried to, and I'm
we're
lost.
diving in, baby.
Help me.
Tagline: You'll never know what bit you.
God damn it.
So obviously the genre of this, I think this is
a dad joke.
Yeah. So I think the tone of this, it's obviously it's like an action comedy horror. So it's not just you know.
It's
I think it's a little bit different from what we've done prior.
And so is Jaws, to be like it's more of an action movie. Which I think that's part of why they're a good pairing. Is they're both actiony horror.
Yeah. So director Steve Miner did Halloween H2O, Friday the 13th Part 2. We have
makes
writer David E. Kelly.
Mhm.
And he was predominantly a TV writer, which I'll get into. That's why I think this is
Interesting.
a little weird. So we have a TV writer.
Uh-huh.
He did Love and Death, which is a miniseries. It's most recently with Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh,
That's what
okay,
people
yeah.
now might know him
That
from.
makes sense, yeah.
He also did a little show called Big Little Lies, starring Nicole
Oh,
Kidman,
yeah.
Reese Witherspoon, Laura
Mhm.
Dern. And then I didn't put it on here, but he was really known for like doing Ally McBeal back in the day. So he was a very and I forget what should have written those down. Some other, I just feel like no one would know the references of the TV shows I was talking about. I was like, I don't want to date myself
Very
because I
fair.
didn't watch any of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so very much like early 90s.
Interesting.
Into the late 90s, into the
Mhm.
aughts was really
Mhm.
like his prime
His-
time of writing
cool.
TV.
Makes sense.
Um,
It feels like that period. yeah.
yes. So we have cinematographer Darren Okada. He also shot Mean Girls.
Oh my god, amazing.
And then one of my Gay Awakening films, Stick It.
Oh, I haven't seen Stick It.
Oh,
Need to
that
see
was
Stick It.
one of the reasons I was like, why is she so attractive? So just love that. He nothing else he did I recognized, but I love that he did those two films
Love
and then
a good
did Lake
Gay
Placid.
Awakening.
So
Yeah. Abe?
very happy.
Yeah, between those three.
Yeah.
Great trio.
We have music by composer John Ottman. He did Nice Guys, Star Trek Discovery, The Orphan, which is one of my favorite movies that I want to cover on here. Maybe more towards the winter time. I want to do that one.
I haven't seen that yet. and I'd
Hide and
love
Seek
to.
and Eight-Legged Freaks.
Oh, I
So
love
we kind of have
it.
like a
Lots of
horror
horror, yeah.
composer auteur a little bit in
Cool.
that way. It was produced by Stan Winston Studios, and Stan Winston, he was obviously the man that created the crocodile for this film, and obviously Notorious Aliens, Jurassic Park, Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, mainly the
Oh.
penguin on that, and Galaxy Quest, which
Oh,
is
cool.
so fun and one of my favorite movies to watch.
Interesting.
And then was
talented guy.
oh my god. Yeah, Stan Winston.
My God.
That's actually where I think I found the fact that it was the anniversary is it came up on
on
Stan
his
Winston
page?
Studios
I love that.
Instagram.
That's so cool.
So, and this was a Fox 2000 Pictures, which is 20th Century
20th
Fox.
century, yep.
So we have starring. We're going back all to the beginning, the first episode of the
Yes.
podcast. Where I talked
Daddy
about
Bill Pullman,
Pullman,
baby. Woo.
as Jack Wells.
Yep.
Our game dude
Yeah. Are you game?
for Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're all game. For
all
Bill.
game. You might know him from Newsies,
Yes,
Independence
that's-
Day,
mhm,
Casper, which you still have not seen. I will
Still
force you to
haven't
watch at
seen.
some point. I forget he was in the 2004 The Grudge.
Which I also haven't seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it, but I don't remember him. It's
Oh,
Buffy.
weird. Yeah.
I'm just forever gonna call it. I'm watching Buffy right now. Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Bill Pullman are in that, which is wild.
Oh,
Totally forgot.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not realize either of them were in that.
And then also, I just
Weird.
want to shout out.
Mhm.
He is also the father to one of my new favorite actors, and also his mini clone, Lewis Pullman. He's on the show Outer Range that shoots here.
Oh, which just got canceled. Which
No!
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's awful.
Are they not doing a season 3? I just
Doing
finished
season 3.
season 2.
I'm so sorry. I know.
Oh my
It's
god, my day just
awful.
got so shitty.
I'm so sorry.
How
This is the
dare you
last
break
thing
that
needed.
live
I'm so
news to me?
sorry.
When did this get?
Just last week. It's brand new.
No!
I know. I'm so sorry. And I had so many friends who were working on it too. We met the buffalo.
I'm going back to Jaws.
Yes,
They're
yeah.
not giving money to the right people to do the right things. That
Exactly.
show was so good.
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
so upset
I
about
know.
that. I can't even go on.
Yeah. I'm so
Anyways.
sorry.
He was in 2018's The Strangers Pray at Night.
Okay.
And then he's also in the upcoming, which now who knows if this is going to get
Oh,
released,
no.
Salem's Lot, which is the Stephen
Oh,
King
yeah.
adaptation.
Ah.
Well,
I'm so
I'm
sorry.
done with for the day.
so
I quit.
I feel like I should have held that piece of
I
horrible
thought you were gonna
information.
say, I feel like I should have held your hand. I'm like, yeah, you should have. I'm
Are
gonna hold
you
your hand when
sitting
I say
down?
this. Anyways, going to why this feels so
Yes.
weird. I feel like
Yes.
in between.
Yeah. Help. Why?
it's
Why?
So Bill Pullman almost didn't take this. He almost didn't take this, and neither did Oliver Platt,
funny.
because I think their managers advised them not to take it because it was written by a TV screenwriter,
Interesting.
and because he was only known for TV, they didn't
Can't
think they were
have
gonna.
that now. Yeah.
Right. They didn't think he could kind of like make that transition.
Huh.
But Oliver Platt said, "Good writing is good writing,
Yeah.
and that good TV is still better than 87.5% of scripts that he's read."
I think that's probably
So
true.
they both were like, "No, we're taking this." I can't even imagine reading the script. I'm wondering how much of like Oliver Platt's dialogue was.
That feels like just him,
I
doesn't
know.
it? Like,
Do you watch The Bear? So I'll get into him and his stuff. Yeah. So him on. I just feel like that's kind of his
just him,
character.
yeah.
Yeah. No one else could play him. Before we get into his whole thing, we also have Bridget Fonda in there as Kelly Scott. Army of Darkness, Monkey Bone, Singles, which is how actually her and Pullman worked on together because he was in that. He's like a professor, doctor, or something in that.
Are they a couple or?
In real life?
Yeah.
No, you want to know who she... So she
Yeah.
quit the biz in 2002
Oh.
to focus on family. She's married to a little composer known as Danny Elfman.
Whoa.
Isn't that wild?
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah.
I had no
In my
idea.
brain, he's not married to anybody.
Yeah.
We met, you weren't here at the time, but his Molly Elfman came here for her film.
That sounded so cool.
So starstruck
Oh
by
my
her.
God, absolutely.
Actually couldn't.
As we
great
all
film,
should be.
too. She did a beautiful job directing that one. So anyways, married to Danny Elfman. And then Oliver Platt as Hector Sear.
Oh.
His performance. So The Bear, he was also in Chef, Bicentennial Man, Benny and June. I feel like he was kind of like raised, one of those actors that kind of like raised me.
Yeah.
In a way, in a very, I think that's where my like chaos anger comes from.
Yeah. He's
Richard
like
Dreyfuss,
your
and then also-
unstable uncle. Yeah. Yeah.
And some fun facts about his character's name. Is an anagram, obviously, for the word cry, which is kind of like a nod to the famous tale that crocodiles
Crocodile
eat.
tears.
Yeah, crocodile tears.
Ah.
But nerdy animal fact: some reptiles actually do cry during meals. Specifically, the American crocodiles and saltwater crocodiles here.
They're so cute.
They use tears to help rid the excess salt that they take in with their food. So they do actually kind of shed tears. And then also rumored about his name is that Sear was named after the Sear plantation in Aroostook, County, Maine, which was close to where the movie was supposed to take place, even
Makes
though
sense.
it was a fictional town. So.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I feel very stupid that I didn't put the anagram fact together after I was talking about anagrams last time. But
I feel
there
like
we are.
that could have been a stretch, but it was the truth this time.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, fun fact about that. Then we have Brendan Gleeson as Sheriff Hank Kyo.
Which speaking of utterly confusing, unplaceable accents, my God, is he trying to do an American accent in this movie?
Well, I don't think he's good at doing American accents. He's what is he? He's Scott.
He's Irish, I think, because he's in Banshees of Inisherin, right?
He's also Mad-Eye Moody in Harry Potter.
Yes, I forgot. He's Mad-Eye Moody in Harry Potter. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I just
yep.
think he's not great at doing an American, because a lot of the work that he gets, he doesn't have to do an American accent. I feel
No,
like,
and so like it like kept kind of moving in and out.
we give
and-
him grace because we love him.
Oh, didn't ruin the performance in any way. I was just vastly entertained by it.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's also in 28 Days Later, which I forget about.
yeah.
And then I always
Boyle.
forget he's one of the elders in The Village. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village.
I
too.
love The
I
Village.
just watched it a couple of weeks ago.
For the first time?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
yeah.
I think I saw that one in theaters.
I feel like that would be a fun one for the podcast.
He was, M. Night Shyamalan is like one of the directors that I was really obsessed with, like his entire career. And I still love him. And even when people were giving him shit, I was like, so he has twists at the end.
Yes.
You can still never guess them.
Right? Well,
You just know there is a twist, but like, duh.
and also, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have your whole auteur theory. The filmmakers got to have their signature mark and then get mad at them for having a signature mark.
Totally,
Like, just
yeah.
pick a side. Pick
I'm
a lane, people.
Yeah, I'm a Shyamalan stan forever.
love it.
Through
Yeah.
and through.
You would like the episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they try to pitch M. Night Shyamalan a movie. And it,
Maybe send me a clip.
Yeah.
I don't know if that show's for me. I have a really hard time with comedy shows. I like a drama.
I'm just
I like
going
a
to keep
horror.
slowly infiltrating.
I like a
your-
bad Disney movie.
Yeah. Anyway, moving right along.
So moving along, he also is father to another babe and good actor, which is Donald Gleason.
Oh, yeah.
Also does,
Amazing.
Also in Harry Potter. And then we have Betty White as Dolores Bickerman.
What a great name. Also,
Yeah. I feel like she decided that one.
That seemed like a Betty White choice.
She's like, no. I'm going to do this.
Mrs. Bickerman.
Yeah, Mrs. Bickerman. She also has one of the best lines of the entire film that everyone quotes, which is, if I had a dick, this is where I'd tell you to suck it.
So good. Also, oh my God,
Perfect.
what was, I wrote down another of her lines that I just loved. Is it a crime to wish the chewing of law enforcement? I wrote, then lock me up. Like, what an icon.
I know. I love her in
She's
this.
amazing.
The dialogue in this is, I was going to start a list of like all my favorite lines, and
It's
then
impossible.
I realized the list
Yeah.
was getting
It's
so
so
long because
long.
every line that Sear said,
It's
I
so
wanted to.
quotable.
Yeah.
It's so quotable. Yeah. Oh.
Lastly, we have Steve Miner, the director, who
Uh-huh.
has a little cameo as the pilot we see in flying the plane in the
Oh, I
beginning, or the
love
helicopter in the
that.
beginning, and then in the hospital, someone can be heard paging Mr. Miner in the background. Obviously, it is.
Oh,
it
that's
is
him. That's so cute.
So yeah, both. I feel like we
Aw.
again horror. It's like
Yeah.
I'm upset if they don't do a cameo.
Yeah, you
themselves.
have to do a cameo. That's part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's essential. Yeah.
So budget on this film, I'm gonna let you take a guess at this one because especially your feelings around this. So budget on this, we have a creature, we have some
Heavy
CGI,
monster effects.
1999.
It's clearly an actual creature build. You said that I'd have some feelings on it, so I'm assuming the budget is high. Is it over 20? Yes? Is it over 30?
No.
Okay. 25?
27. I know it's kind of a lot.
Oh.
Right? Isn't it a lot?
Oh.
I was kind of gagged and gooped. I thought like maybe 15 mil with creature feature.
Ridiculous.
I know. 1999. So it luckily made its money back. Which I'll get into. I don't know if I want to get into it now. I want to kind of save it for the end. It did end up grossing 56 million worldwide.
Pretty good.
Wasn't great. We'll talk about that at the very end of why,
Okay.
in comparison to some other things. So, this was filmed between July 24th and October 26th. So kind of
Similar time period.
period, I'm realizing.
Mhm.
The film was actually postponed a little bit due to poor weather conditions that they had happening.
Interesting.
And during that time, though, that they had to take a little breaky break, director Steve Miner then took that time to direct Halloween H2O.
Oh my God.
He's like, be right back. Oh, the
Prolific,
weather's
yeah.
bad. See you in a second.
Let me just do this
Let
real
me hop
quick.
over really quick. Which I've not seen Halloween H2O. to
I
be
haven't
fair.
either. At some point, it will happen.
Yeah.
but
We'll go down. I think once it gets
Yeah.
a little bit crispier out.
Yes, we'll go down a
temperature-wise.
Halloween rabbit hole. Yeah.
So the film takes place in obviously a fictional town called Black Lake, Maine.
Mhm.
While the film is supposed to take place in Maine, they actually didn't shoot anything in Maine,
Oh,
which I think is
interesting.
really funny. Some of the film scenes were shot in Vancouver, Surrey, British Columbia. They did shoot in a few different lakes in British Columbia, but they also built a lake.
They built a lake?
They built a lake. Yeah, so it wasn't great. It was kind of like an enclosed set outdoors, I'm assuming. They kind of didn't, I couldn't find pictures of what it looked like. And they said it felt like they were on the set for 40 days and 40 nights. Steve Miner
So
said
biblical.
in an interview, Steve Miner said in an interview, I think they had a spiritual experience. They called it the Barge of Misery.
Oh my God.
So also, I think like notoriously not great in different ways, because they would be out there shooting in the cold lake, and there would be wind,
Oh,
and they
yeah,
would just
I'm
be
sure
in the
that's
water, like
awful,
the
yeah.
crew. So very much like Jaws. I think when you're doing like a water creature feature, you're gonna be a little bit miserable.
Yeah.
or at least
You will
the crew
pay.
is.
Yeah.
So the Barge of Misery is all I'm gonna see now.
That's so good.
That's
That's the metal band of the episode.
Oh, the Barge
Yeah,
of
the Barge of
Misery, pirate metal band.
Yes.
Oh, full circle.
I can hear it right now.
Fuck.
Yes. Oh my God. You'll have to
making
tell your
charts.
pirate friends.
I have pirate friends now, guys. It's so cool.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I feel so cool. So
Tell them about Barge of Misery.
we're gonna make patches for everybody.
Eye patches.
At the pirate fest that's going up, they vote for a pirate king, and I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
dare I enter?
Yes.
They just started voting.
Yes.
I want to be pirate
Oh my
king with
God.
my Barge of Misery.
Can we get podcast listeners to vote you Pirate King?
God. Yeah.
Yes.
Let me
Everybody make Al Pirate King.
Please, I would be
Oh,
Pirate
for your
King.
birthday.
That's all I want.
It's not Al's birthday for like another 2 months,
Yeah, we
but
got a
help
while.
us make them Pirate King.
Please. I don't even know how to segue from that.
Sorry.
But have you heard of this movie prior to me bringing it up to you? Is my first question.
I knew of it, and I
Okay.
thought that it was much more of a straight horror film than it is. I did not. This was another one where, like Pearl, when I went to find it on Amazon, and it has like the genre tags, and it said comedy. I was like, what? Whomst?
Yeah.
Al?
Hello. I like the campier stuff. So then you probably so there was a funny little marketing campaign for the film. I think mainly to studios, not so much like people.
Interesting.
Like us peasants.
Fair.
They said, sure, marketing a thriller about a giant man-eating crocodile. Oh yeah, Bridget Fonda and Bill Pullman are in it too. Is no easy feat, but the folks at Fox seemed to relish in the task a bit too much, if you ask. So I found this old article. The marketing item in question that they were sending out to PR, to press, whatever, was a Lake Placid beach towel featuring a swimmer on it with a nutritional data box tattooed on his back.
I love that.
Saying that a human contains 23,000 calories and 9,000 milligrams of fat, which you're like, is that true? They don't really know. So the marketing team, Fox rep Jackie Sigmund, responded with, we did try to get the exact nutritional info for the 180-pound human, but the cannibal farm in North Carolina would not return our calls.
Oh my God.
So if that just tells you...
I love
the
that.
bonkersness of just even the marketing. I just think from start to finish, they were like, this is comedy first.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the first genre on there.
It's just silly. It's just for fun. Yeah.
Again, done by a TV writer.
Yeah.
It feels very made for TV.
Yeah.
You have great stars in it. I think it was acted as a 1999 film would be acted.
I think they are doing what the material calls for, you know?
And I do feel like with your definition of camp, I feel like this is the definition of camp, because it did feel like they were taking it seriously.
It does feel like they're taking it serious, which I think is part of why it's so funny, which I'm like, I always struggle with that Sontag definition, because I'm like, there are so many things that are campy that are self-aware.
Yeah.
But I think this is a perfect example of when that definition is really applicable, because like, yeah, it does feel like they're kind of not totally, especially like, I just have to take a second to say I love how many times in the course of the movie, characters are like, but why would you make that decision, other character? Your actions make no sense. And the other character's like, I don't know, actually.
I know.
Like,
it's because look at the characters and their description of who they are.
Well, and like the
and
number
then they all
of
come
times
together.
that one of the characters is like, why is a paleontologist here? And she's like,
And she's
I don't
like,
know.
my boyfriend, also my boss, just broke up with me. Just even we're set off with her having like her anxiety breathing, which
she's like,
and she's like, what are you in a Lamaze class? And I'm like, oh boy,
I'm meditating.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, good.
So obviously, creature feature. I'm going to spend a majority talking about the crocodile.
Yes.
Which
Does he have a name?
Big Bertha.
Oh, that's so cute.
I don't know if Warren gasped at me or. So Sam Winston and his crew realized very early on that Lake Placid's crocodile, Big Bertha, they kind of realized it as this full animatronic puppet from the start. That's really what they wanted to do.
Needs to be
complete with moving head and tail and snapping jaws that would function underwater. So again, we're like 20 years. 25 years off of Jaws at this point.
Trying to do the same technology.
Yeah, I think Jurassic Park that Sam Winston did came just 1997, I believe. So we're
right.
and that was obviously they had learned some things on that too.
Yeah.
So they first started with a 1/5 scale model that was sculpted and painted as a guide for building the full-size croc. The full-size sculptures were then made out of rigid foam, and they kind of refined the foam down to prepare it for the molding and like all the skin layers that you would see for it. So they then kind of through hydraulics, that's how they like obviously animated it, which Stan had learned worked fairly well in water.
Yeah, on Jaws.
On Jaws.
Yeah, look at that.
Him, but yeah. in the water environment from previous projects. Obviously, like I said, I think they learned some things, at least about the skin from Jurassic Park. Like I said, it got like really heavy and bogged down. And so as long as they were protected in this waterproof housing and surrounded by water resistant skin. So there was a lot of layers of like paints and stuff
Makes sense.
that were added to it. And there's really good like YouTube videos and stuff of close-ups of the croc.
Oh, that's gotta be
And he
so
looks
cool.
so real up close.
It's an incredible
It's beautiful.
creature.
The only thing that bothers me is like the way it blinks. It's like a little sleepy, which is probably how my eyes look right now. So animatronic, I don't know. Am I really here? AI's gotten wild.
Me on the haunted doll episode, just like
The one. I feel like that's me and the croc, and you were one and the same. So
good.
Just to make sure, they tested the croc puppet efficiency in water. They learned
Thank
from
God.
stories.
Yep.
The Sam Winston Studios crew took it up to Kestiak Lake in Los Angeles National Forest prior to painting it and just dropped it in.
Whoa. That's had to have been a scary day.
Yeah. They're like, well, we're just gonna see how this works.
Did they take it on a semi like that last shot? Like
Oh
strapped
my God,
in?
I don't know. They had to have, probably.
Right?
That was actually the shot of them transporting it to the lake. They're like, that's just
Two
let's
birds,
just
one
roll
stone,
camera on
motherfucker.
this.
Yeah.
So one of the people leading the testing was the lead crocodile technician, Richard Landon. Isn't that so cool?
What a title. I love that. Lead crocodile tech.
I wonder if Jaws, they got that title.
Lead shark tech.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whale tech.
Whale tech.
So these technicians were wearing full body clean air suits to protect themselves from all the toxic chemicals.
Oh my God.
Which I'm like, yikes. Applied to the surface coat of the water resistant like urethane inside of the crocodile mold. So there was a lot of smells happening,
sure.
I imagine.
Many smells.
Yes. And so they dropped it in to the water, the croc into the water. And Richard Landon said, quote, "That thing actually swam. Its head left to right, its tail left to right. Functionalities were enough to make it propel itself through the water."
What?
Spooky.
That's crazy.
I mean, like it swam.
I guess it does kind of go to like crocs and alligators are well-designed critters, man. They're tanks. Can survive anything.
Yeah.
So just make something that shape and it'll swim on its own, I guess.
I feel like that's a pretty simple mechanism to
Yeah.
have something in the front, something in the back,
Yeah.
the way it kind of moves. Most of it's submerged, so they can have a lot of things like working
Those, like
underneath.
long, thick tails for balance, I'm sure. Yeah. I do too. They're cute.
So to help it gain a faster swimming speed, of course, during filming, they did attach it to a wire and pull it through the water by
Makes
a boat.
sense. Yeah.
And Richard Landon goes then on to say, which I love this. I was biting my tongue so hard when you were talking about Jaws and working with water and all and having the shark in there. So Richard Landon then says, "We went into this show with the full knowledge that water always wins. That has become my personal motto. Water always wins. Water will always break something. Water is a universal solvent. Super glue breaks down in it. Urethane breaks down in it. Paint breaks down in it. Water is a nightmare, and we were in it for a full 6 months on this show." So I love that they truly probably, I'm sure they read everything that you read behind the scenes and were like, this is going to happen.
That's fascinating.
Which, going into that and knowing that is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I remember I did a shoot, not to get too off topic, but I did a
please.
shoot. It was one of my first shoots in college. How I met my best friends in films. It was our like directing. We were like the only
That's so
girls
cute.
in the
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
And we went up North Michigan. It was like 3 feet of snow, and we had a guy in armor. And the production designer, I started to take over for it because I could problem solve. That's
that
all you got to
doesn't
know how to
surprise
do
me.
sometimes to work your way up.
Yep.
So I went from being a PA and like makeup to production designer and like wardrobe and all this stuff. Because she was putting, this is such a read, she was putting duct tape in cold, wet weather on metal. That does not work.
No.
That does not work.
Not going to stick.
So learn your materials before you get into anything. I know that water always wins. Super dumb.
This reminds me of a little Jaws tidbit that I forgot to throw out there.
Ooh.
But apparently the two producers have joked since then that if they had given the book a second read when they first read it, that they would have never made the film because they would have realized how impossible it is to make. So thank God for white male mediocrity.
Good thing in one eye out the other.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is perfect. It sounds like a great movie. Read it again. Oh boy.
Oh God.
Oh, no.
How are we gonna do this, Bruce?
I'm like, how do we turn this into sometimes read the material? Maybe
Yes.
sometimes don't.
maybe sometimes don't.
Don't read
Maybe
too much
sometimes
into
come
it.
underprepared.
That's my side of it.
Sometimes
That's my
things
side
that
of
are
preparing.
expensive are worse.
Yeah. So how big was Big Bertha?
Yes. How
She was
big
a big
Big
bitch.
Bertha?
So I wrote I could give you a straight answer, but then the internet did some math, and it's more fun that way. So a typical flatbed truck in the U.S. is around 48 to 53 in length and about like 9 feet across. Meaning the crocodile on the flatbed that we see at the very end would at least be around 45 feet long. You're
And they're
welcome
saying
for
that
that
it's like
knowledge about
30
trucks.
feet.
So they're saying it's
Damn.
roughly about like 30 to 32 feet
In the movie.
long
Yeah.
from start to. So the biggest, the largest croc that's like known in existence was in captivity. And measured 20 feet 3 inches when he died of pneumonia, which is so sad. In 2013 in the Philippines. So Big Bertha is 10 feet longer
Jesus
than like a
Christ.
recorded croc. I'm
Big
sure there's bigger
Bertha.
ones
Yeah.
out there.
Oh yeah. And we'll never see them.
Oh
probably,
no.
But
No.
yeah.
They're living in murky waters.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Oh
funny
my
because I'm like,
God.
30 feet doesn't feel that long, but then,
then
you
you
see
see
her
it.
up too, and you're like, never mind. I
That's
take it
pretty
back. I
big.
feel like a seer in the water is like, you know what? This maybe was a bad idea. This is
I
maybe
love that
kinda
moment
stupid.
where he's like, this is feeling a bit foolish on my part at the
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
He is me. I am him.
Feeling a little bit foolish at the moment. Yeah.
He has some of the best dialogue.
He really does.
Him talking about his dream of the decapitated head, and his parents wouldn't let him in because he was going to bump around the house. And then he also got invited to a soccer game, but they used his head as a ball. He was just happy to be included.
I wrote down.
I love him. I love him. I love him.
I was like not prepared to like see a chunk of the script and be like, that sounds like something I'd put in a movie.
Yeah.
Like I
Also,
love
love
that
story.
monologue.
Him and the sheriff.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
They go off. They ride into the sunset together.
Yes, they do. Oh, so cute. We love.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the animatronic croc. Obviously, there was CG in this as well. So they mix it in. I think they did a good job of kind of like mixing it in and showing those close-up shots of the animatronic and then using the CG.
There was never a moment that jumped out to me.
Yeah. It was,
either.
I think, for 1999, and this wasn't. We'll get into one of the bigger films that was happening at the time. Kind of doing the same concept that it held up relatively well.
I think so.
So one of the things, obviously, we have some of the major scenes. The alligator. Oh God.
Okay,
The
real
crocodile.
quick. What
Don't
is
ask me.
the difference?
Do you know that George, a few weeks back, I was talking about the drinks at like Outback Steakhouse,
Yeah.
and like talking how they have like the little crocodile thing, and then he memorized a poem and he said it to me, and the difference between a crocodile and an alligator. Wish I had the memory to repeat
Oh my
it to
God, George, help us!
you.
I remember isn't there something about like a
Their
crocodile's
head.
snout is shaped like a C and like an alligator's snout?
Yeah,
is shaped
so
like
an
an
alligator's
egg?
snout is a little bit like
pointy?
wider and round, so alligator, and
Oh.
then a croc's is more pointed, and I think more often than not, crocodiles are more seawater. I think
that's
than-
and alligators are.
Oh, my like 10-year-old self is very upset that I don't
know,
remember
right?
this information.
Well, I know gators are in Florida, so that's like swampy.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
are
I think
crocs?
alligators are more known for like freshwater.
Yeah, I think
and-
so.
and
That feels right.
crocodiles more
That
for
feels
sea.
right. We're
Yeah.
gonna go with that. I love it. Cool.
So they obviously they had some real animals that were like captivity. They had the croc, the bear, the cow. And then they digitized
Wait, the bear
them.
was real?
They had a real bear at some point too.
I thought that was a purely digital bear.
No. They had shots when it was first running, and then when it was like
Wow.
obviously
Okay.
attacked.
Damn.
So Digital Domain was the one the group responsible for the CGI in this. They were actually becoming more well known at the time because they had already done The Fifth Element and Titanic.
Damn.
I know, right? Only
Just a few
Just
small
only the
things.
Titanic.
Yeah. Well, and also good because then you've done a lot of water work already too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm
Which
sure
they
it's
did
helpful.
have to animate the water in a few scenes, like coming in and out. They
Makes
had
sense.
to digitize
Yeah.
that, so that actually makes a lot of sense. So they did have obviously the real cow dangling from the helicopter at one point. That was not CG.
That poor poor cow.
I was wondering how long that thing. So they make that joke about PETA in it, but actually Betty White was a spokeswoman for PETA at the time, which I'm not a fan of PETA.
Not a
these
fan
days.
of PETA either.
They're
They
awful.
don't do fan of animals, not a fan of PETA.
Yeah. I'm vegetarian.
Yeah.
I've been it since when PETA videos are some of the first that scarred me of why I don't eat anymore.
They're very effective, or were very
everything
effective.
else.
Yeah.
So anyways, how they got kind of that realistic look for Lake Placid and how I feel like it kind of stands up. They, the team actually studied a bunch of documentaries of footage of 4-foot-long crocs and 20-foot crocs chasing a human. I would love to find this video. I'm assuming at a zoo. I'm assuming not in wild.
One would hope.
I'm
God.
assuming, yeah.
Yeah. Other.
And so they kind of worked like on laser scans of like the models that they had and digitized it that way. So they did a lot of studying with that, watching things. I think the way it moves actually for CGI in 1999, it moves like a croc.
Very impressive. Yeah.
And I think that's where you can get really wrong. His movement.
Yeah.
Bendy, gummy limbs. Like in Harry Potter.
Yes.
I feel like they get gummy.
Yeah.
And I felt like there's no ridges, there's a weight to certain things.
Weight is for me always the thing with CGI.
Yeah. Especially if you have a big thing.
Yes.
Ground it.
Yep. It's got to feel heavy.
Yeah. So they also looked at the animatronics and kind of tried to recreate that as well. Overall, they made 36 articulated joints within the digitization of it that were computer generated for the crocodile alone. And they would film, like I said, the animatronic animals and then use that to enhance it. So that's kind of how they got the result, was working off of what they already had in front of them.
Makes sense.
And in total, we see the croc for 3 minutes and 43 seconds of the film. So not a lot of screen time, but enough to feel good.
It almost feels like it's more than that.
It does.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
So moving on, we have some fun references that Lake Placid makes.
Love.
Hector jokes at one point, at one point that the crocodile was flushed down the toilet by some asshole in Hong Kong, which is a reference to the film Alligator in 1980.
Oh my God.
Where the little girl, Marissa's, I think is her name is, father flushes a baby alligator down the toilet and it grows into a behemoth in the sewer, which they reference that in X.
Oh, yes.
Too.
Yes.
X.
I think it
Full
also,
circle.
that makes perfect sense. It also, have you seen the movie The Host?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's some of that.
The Japanese one,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Or Korean. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Bong Joon-ho, I think. Yeah. I want to say. Same
That
director who
movie,
did Parasite.
I loved. I don't know.
I think.
But I
Maybe
watched
not,
that in film school, and I love showing that film to people.
Yeah.
I love it. Now it's more known. I feel like
It,
back in like
for a while, was very underappreciated. Yeah.
So that's
Anyway,
a little
digression,
reference.
but yeah.
And they make a couple other references to alligator in the film as well. And Lake Placid also has similarities to the X-Files, 1993, season 2, episode 22.
Ooh.
Quagmire. There's a series of attacks
Such
that
a great
happen on the
word.
lake. I know. And they call the sea monster Big Blue. Turns out it's a crocodile. So I think they maybe got some inspiration.
Interesting.
TV writer,
Yeah,
seeing
makes
popular
sense.
TV at the time. Other similarities include the farmer's cow being killed while drinking from water. And I don't know where that fact is a side fact that I put in the wrong place. So
Happens to me all the time.
we also have a fun little foreshadowing moment. The sheriff describes his lightweight forward area device, saying whatever's out there, one shot with this and it's dead, and it kind of foreshadows at the end that he's ultimately uses it to dispatch the little baby croc or female croc. We don't know.
Yeah.
And
Little baby.
one of my I wrote kind of a film theory rant corner tiny desk.
Yeah.
But I just love that this is one of the horror films that, unlike Jaws at the time, this kind of explores the theme of human intrusion on nature.
Yeah.
And so I think coming off of that into this, it kind of leads us into even Deep Blue Sea, which I'm going to get into. It came out at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
It was released, I think, 14 days
wow.
after
That's gotta be
Lake Placid. So
hard
they came
to
out at the
follow
same
up.
time.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons, so they both I thought it was kind of funny. We were coming into this era of testing on animals or like
Yeah.
feeding them or whatever.
Yeah.
And so Deep Blue Sea absolutely decited.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely decimated Lake Placid. It
Interesting.
made 156 million at the box office.
Wow.
Whereas Lake Placid
So
made
it was like 50 something?
Mhm,
Wow.
56,
That's
so.
a huge gap.
Yep. So it kind of knocked it off its butt.
It's funny because I feel like now Lake Placid is so much better known.
Deep Blue Sea
No?
is.
Really?
I feel like
I've
Deep
not
Blue
even heard
Sea-
of that before. Yeah.
Other shark movie.
Oh, interesting.
Oh boy,
Yeah, I don't know anything
there.
about it.
If you want to talk about real LL Cool J's in that, he's
Oh
a
my
parrot.
God.
He's a chef.
What? Okay, so
Yeah.
definitely got to add
It's
this
way
to
more
the watch
bonkers.
list. Yeah.
So, anyways, jumping into the critics' response, it has a 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 47 Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not surprised. It did spawn sequels after the fact. So, again, I remember renting it at Blockbuster. But after the fact, we have Lake Placid 2, Lake Placid 3, Lake Placid, the final chapter.
Yes, I saw that.
And
title.
then it also has some video game adaptations
Oh,
called Croc
interesting.
Drop. They actually came out in 1999, and they used it to promote this film.
Oh, cool.
And then in 2007, when they came out with like Placid 2, they also had Croc Alley. And that's kind of it on my Lake Placid,
my
just
God.
for time's sake.
I love it.
Yeah.
What would you rate it?
Oh my God. Here's the thing. My heart wants to rate it one way, and
Right.
then the film in me wants.
Right.
I would give this a 4
Okay.
in my.
That's fair.
I just think it's so funny. The laughs are there.
Mhm.
It covers the comedy bit.
Mhm.
I do think the payoff of like the croc is so good.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just like a campy lakeside scare.
It's just a good time.
Yeah. So I think I would give it a 4 just for pure entertainment
I love
value.
it. I
What
mean,
about you?
It's got a lot of entertainment value. I still don't know, Al. I have no idea what I think of this
In one
movie.
moment 5, in
Yeah.
one moment doing a Roger Ebert point star.
Yeah. No thumbs, 0 thumbs, just fists up.
Yeah. It's funny though, because it does. I feel like more now it's just getting a lot more love, which makes me really happy.
Interesting. So it's kind of having a cult
I feel like it's kind of coming
resurgence.
back a little bit.
That's-
So
it
yeah, I don't
Makes
know. I'm
sense
giving it
now
a
that
4.
I've seen it.
I love it.
I mean, there are just so many amazing one-liners. Like,
Yeah, it's the one. It's really honestly Oliver Platt,
yeah,
and then just Bill Pullman being so handsome, and then you
True.
have Betty White. I don't know.
icon.
It was very. She also at one point too, when she talks about knocking her husband like over in the head to kill him.
Mhm.
Apparently, the screenwriter David Kelly also worked on a different show with her, and she had the same dialogue and something. So it's like, did Betty
Oh my
White just
God,
want
how
that, or did they write that as like
weird.
a little nod?
That
yeah.
feels like a Betty White just
She's like, "This
wanted
be
that
funny."
thing. Yeah, just have
I
me
love this.
kill people.
Yeah. I love hitting
Oh,
men over the head
so
with pants.
much. That's so good.
Yeah. So
I do have to shout out the line that the longer you live, the more sex you get to have with your sister, which just like I heard that and I screamed.
his
His
lines-
screamed.
he gets a 10 out of just his
Yeah.
dialogue and his
And the delivery. Yeah.
I love the too when the sheriff comes to walk up in the bush and you think there's gonna be like a croc there,
Yeah,
and he
it's
pops
him.
out and he was like, "I was hitting a trap." He's like, "You showed me your pee-pee and it made me scared," or something like that. And I'm just like, I fucking love it so, and now I'm afraid. Or something like that.
Even like when
I love
whatever
him.
the fuck is going on with that obligatory other female character, the like
Oh,
hot
the one who
police
was like, "I'll have
officer?
sex with you if you don't get in the water."
Yeah.
Stop right there. Full
When he
stop.
like goes up to her boss and is like, "Excuse me, can she stay here? We were hoping to meet." I'm like,
yeah.
"My God!"
I love it because I almost feel like he paved the way for like what's his name in like Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, Russell
like,
Brand.
Yeah, Russell Brand. Like
Yeah,
characters.
He's like that. He's that brand.
Yeah. He's like that kind of like hip, like scholar hippie
yeah.
who just like wants to fuck, but like,
yeah.
but he's just
like
like
is like well intentioned. Like
kind of
like I don't feel like he's
misintentioned?
like a bad dude.
Mm-mm.
Like he's saying things that normally I would want to punch him, but I'm like, but it's just all.
But then he like wraps it right back around. It does how it could have aged really poorly.
It could have aged really poorly.
But because his character does have these like little moments that kind of pull him back, then I'm like, okay, this could have been like the fatty comment. I'm like, you were bigger than him, but what does that even matter?
Right.
And then I'm like, that's such a 90s thing to call somebody a fatty.
Very much is. It very
such
much
a 90s
is.
thing. It's so bad. But I feel like overall for 1999, it like
It's
held
surprisingly
up. The comedy held up.
Yeah,
so.
surprisingly like wholesome
Ish.
Yeah.
Well, glad I got to scramble your brain into scrambled eggs.
Yeah, now I need to go sit alone in a corner and try to figure out a star rating because I have no idea still.
I'll take that one.
Stumped, Al. I'm stumped. Like I knew at least with All Cheerleaders Die, which like is the one that it kind of made me think the most of, just tonally, I guess.
Yeah.
That I was like easy 2.5. Like not a well-made film, but I had a great time watching it. This I'm like, I don't know.
It's weird.
I'm
it's
all over the
one.
map.
I love
I
it.
have no idea.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. You broke me, Al.
Yay!
You broke me. I'm broken. I'm a broken man who sits before you. On that note, shall we tell people what we're doing next time?
Oh,
when we come back and are even more broken?
The thing that we decided right before we started recording?
Correct. Yep. Let me
I'll let you
up to it. Yep. Okay, so next episode.
Yeah.
In the grand tradition of summertime slashers.
Yeah.
And also because Beastly is going to have signed copies of the new Stephen Graham Jones.
Yeah.
Which I'm super stoked
I was a teenage
for.
slasher.
Yes, I was a teenage slasher.
Stephen Graham Jones, if you're into reading horror, which I know personally for me, I am not into reading horror.
Love reading horror.
I like
brilliant.
fantasy.
Yeah.
Trav absolutely.
Trav
loves
and I are
reading
both
horror. Trav is a
fans.
huge Stephen Graham Jones fan. The book is on sale as of today.
Oh yeah,
actually,
the
so
day we're
you can now buy it on
recording.
beaslybooks.com.
Look at that! Look at that!
But we are doing,
in honor of that, we're doing a summer slashers pairing. I'm gonna do Sleepaway Camp from 1983.
So excited!
I'm so excited.
I'm doing I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes,
which I haven't revisited in such a long time. But I'm doing, like I said, a Buffy rewatch. So I'm very excited.
I love it.
And I also watched Scooby Doo a couple times lately. So Freddie Prinze and I get Sarah Michelle. So
the live Scooby Doo. Cinematic masterpiece.
And they're married.
I'm obsessed.
Oh my god, it's so good. I just bump to that soundtrack into work sometimes.
Oh hell yeah, as we all should.
Yeah.
Bump it in the office, dude.
Also, Ice Kills, who I've also talked about, metal band, does horror things. They do have a Jaws song. It's called "Don't Rock the Boat."
Oh my god,
Rocking the Boat. Yeah. So I bumped to that on the way in today too. But yeah, I'm excited to do like proper slashers. Sleepaway Camp is like one of my favorite things to show people. It's like truly some of my favorite slashers. Can't wait to see your fit for that that one. Yeah,
that
very
one's
excited.
97, right? I think something like that.
Oh, I don't know actually.
We're gonna find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Tune in next time.
Tune in next time. Find out what year Sleepaway Camp was released.
Again, if you enjoyed listening to Jaws or you are coming to a screening first, reminder that JeanCocteauCinema.com. We have tickets on sale for Jaws August
9th through 11th.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're gonna make some. I'm looking up little things to put in cocktails.
Oh my god, I love
whether
it.
it be sharks or weed. We'll find out. So we'll have some fun themed cocktails. So you can get tickets now. They are on sale, and I think we will be there.
Arm.
I know. I was like, "What's the fun thing?"
Yeah,
Maybe we should ask people what they want to see.
Yeah.
Severed arm. I thought life raft.
Oh, love it. So many options.
A little
shark
beanie.
tooth.
Richard Dreyfuss's little beanie, little glasses on the rim. Anyways,
I love that.
What else do we have? Follow us on social media everywhere at Splice and Splatter Pod. If it's not in Splice and Splatter Pod, it's at Splice and Splatter. We have a link tree. We have all of our goodies in there. We are putting out full episodes on YouTube, so you can watch us there, or patreon.com/GRRM. I think we just have thanks to give.
Yeah, thank you to Warren.
Yeah, thanks, Warren, for all those edits you're going to make in the middle of this. All those edits. So many edits that he's shaking his head no. Thank you. You're so kind.
We adore you.
Thank you, Travis Fowler, for giving me all the thumbs up and thumbs down to things I was asking off camera today.
We love the fact checks. We need the fact checks.
Yeah. And thanks, Theo Schaefer, for making us sound cool as we exit out into the ether. And I will go back into my little coffin and stay there for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Nail me coffin.
Yeah. On that note, thanks for listening
to Splice and Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, by Classic Horror.
It's modern gore.
And until next time,
we'll be right back.